Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Cabbage Head Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had God Tier Healing Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Mom, wake up. A young girl cried out in panic as flames engulfed the area around her. The villain in front of her laughed ominously. Yes. Plead for your mother to return. It won't change anything. The heroes surrounding the geokinetic villain charged in unison, only to be halted by large spikes of rock. And no, the young girl screamed, desperate to prevent any further harm. Suddenly, wings unfurled from behind her flowing green hair as she rushed to each fallen hero, placing her hands over their injuries. A green glow radiated from her palms, and the seemingly fatal wounds began to heal. Realizing what was happening, the villain attempted to strike the young girl, but his powers inexplicably faltered. Sheesh, you were tricky. But I finally caught you, Eraserhead muttered from the shadows. He swiftly wrapped his capture gear around the villain, securing him. Hey kid, are you alright? He asked gently. The young girl looked up from her mother's still form, meeting Eraserhead's sympathetic gaze. She sniffled. Mom isn't waking up. I'm sorry, but your mom is gone. She's not coming back, he said, choosing to be honest with her. Despite being only 4 years old, she seemed to grasp reality better than most. I know, the young girl hiccuped, tears streaming down her face. Why didn't my Quirk show up sooner? I could have saved her. Eraserhead found it strange that her quirk had manifested only when other heroes were hurt, not when her mother was in danger. Hey, what's your name? We'll take you to the police and see if there are any relatives who can take you in, he said, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Izumi Midoriya. Eraserhead nodded. A Midoriya, huh? Your father had quite the reputation. At the mention of her father, Izumi's eyes sparkled with hope, but Eraserhead quickly dimmed that light. I'm sorry, kid. He passed away doing what he loved. I couldn't believe he risked everything to save a patient. Izumi stared at him in disbelief. Why you're lying? He can't be gone too. He shook his head gently. I'm sorry, kiddo. Your father cared deeply for his friends, myself included. Unfortunately, there are no relatives left who can take you in. Tears fell freely from Izumi's eyes, and Eraserhead realized too late that his honesty had been too harsh for her. Great, he muttered under his breath. So you're saying you were too honest with a 4-year-old and now she's crying? Midnight asked, raising an eyebrow. Eraserhead sighed. Namuri, you know how bad I am with kids. If you had been there, she probably wouldn't be crying so much. Honestly, Shota, I knew you struggled with people, but I never thought you could be so insensitive. I'm not insensitive. I just don't have much experience with others, you know this. Yeah. So, what are we going to do about her? Hisashi is gone, Inko is gone, and the poor thing has no known relatives left. Aizawa noticed the look on her face. We are not adopting her. Ah, come on please. Your charm won't work on me and we're not married, so stop calling me sweetie. We still live in the same house, she teased, earning a frustrated growl from Aizawa. Because you burned your house down. We are not adopting the kid, and that's final. What's with you and people? You always avoid them. Because I'm not as good with people as you or Hisashi. Granted, Hisashi isn't either, but he's still more social than I am. Oh, come on, Shota, this is a perfect chance for you to work on your people skills. What's holding you back? I can't handle kids, Namuri. We've been through this. Please, it won't be all bad. Look, I'll adopt her. You don't have to take care of her if you don't want to, but at least try to improve your social skills with her, alright. Aizawa sighed. I suppose there's no arguing with you. Fine. I'll go along with this plan. It's not a crazy plan, Shota. Stop making it sound that way. Kiyama replied. Alright, I'll go sign the adoption papers. You go home and prepare dinner, okay? I'd better be the one cooking. The last time you tried, you nearly burned the house down. It was one time. Whatever, just get the kid. Izumi sat quietly in the waiting room of the police station, absent-mindedly plucking at her wings. She despised the timing of her quirk's manifestation. It felt like a cruel joke that it hadn't appeared sooner. You know, you shouldn't pluck your feathers. It makes you less aerodynamic, a voice chimed in. Izumi looked up to see Midnight smiling at her. I hate this quirk, Izumi admitted, tears slipping down her cheeks. It didn't show up in time. I could have saved Mom. Hey, it's okay, kiddo. You have your quirk now, and you can help others. I'm sure your mother wouldn't want you to resent your abilities because she sacrificed herself for you. Midnight maintained her smile, though she felt a pang of sadness at Izumi's words. I suppose. Izumi murmured, still unconvinced. I was friends with your mom, you know. She wouldn't have wanted you to blame yourself for what happened. Come on, keep your chin up. Use your quirk to save those you can. Be a better hero than anyone else. I'm sure that's what Inko would have wanted too. Midnight encouraged, unaware that Izumi had already been inspired by her words. Izumi agreed to go with Midnight as she signed the adoption papers and took Izumi back home. Izumi was taken to a small, out-of-the-way house. It was large enough to fit a small family but modest enough to blend in, not resembling the home of a pro hero. She looked around cautiously, only relaxing when she was certain nothing would harm her here, despite Kiyama's constant reassurances. Kiyama and Aizawa, mostly Kiyama, showed her around the house. When the brief tour was finished, Izumi immediately asked if they could drive to her old house to pick up her belongings. Kiyama, being a responsible adoptive parent, agreed, leaving Aizawa at home to prepare dinner. Over the course of 2 years, Izumi trained in various forms of martial arts. She learned several karate forms, some judo techniques, and even kung fu moves from an international trainer who had moved from China. She memorized all the techniques taught to her by multiple instructors, including Aizawa, who, despite his stoic demeanor, was quite fond of Izumi and wanted to ensure her safety. Come on, Izumi, your reaction time is still too slow for this. Remember, you can't always rely on set techniques to win your battles. You need to improvise, which means carefully analyzing your opponent's actions and anticipating their next moves. It also means being able to react quickly enough to counter their attacks, Aizawa said sternly. If the medic goes down, the whole team will soon follow, so stay alert. Don't depend solely on the high defensive potential of your quirk. Get good at predicting attacks, dodge them, and protect your team just like they would protect you. Take notes, write them down if you have to, but whatever you do, don't forget anything you've been taught. It's all vital for your survival. Izumi was adept at reading between the lines, and she understood that despite Aizawa's mask of indifference, he genuinely cared for her not just as a hero, but also as a parental figure. This was one of the many reasons she respected him. No matter what turmoil he faced, he could always hide it behind a mask, keeping it hidden from the outside world. Observant people might notice something was amiss, but most were oblivious, and that was why Izumi admired that skill. 2 years later, at the age of 6, Izumi studied medicine with such enthusiasm that she enrolled in medical school. Yes, at the age of 6. She received many strange looks, but no one questioned her due to her superhuman intelligence. The child could solve a Sudoku puzzle in minutes and understood complex concepts like chemical formulas and calculus. If her quirk hadn't been registered as divine intervention, people might have assumed her quirk was superintelligence. Medical school typically took around 4 years to complete, with 3 years of study beforehand to gain access, followed by 10 more years of internship, residency, and training. Izumi accomplished it all in 6 years. Now, she was officially the youngest doctor in all of Japan, possibly the world. That was 18 years of hard work condensed into 6. When Izumi returned home with the news, both Aizawa and Kiyama were shocked. After a moment of uncomfortable silence, Aizawa chuckled, "Well, looks like we found our new child prodigy. You really do take after your father, kid, even if his quirk has nothing to do with medicine." Izumi paused for a moment. Wait, if my father's quirk was nothing like mine, and neither was my mother's, then whose quirk is this? She asked slowly, cautiously, as if she didn't want to know the answer. Aizawa sighed. Kid, you have to understand that not all quirks are passed down genetically. Some kids don't inherit their quirks from their parents. Cases like those are called quirk mutations. Sometimes your quirk is a combination of both parents' quirks. That's called a quirk marriage. So, I have a mutated quirk? Izumi asked. That's a bit of a condescending way to put it, but effectively, yes, Kiyama replied. Izumi let out a sigh of relief. At least she didn't receive the answer she had feared. Kiyama then walked to the living room, where a laptop was running. So, where are you going to study after this? She asked Izumi, even though Izumi didn't really need much more education. She had skipped all the basics and gone straight for the complexities. Well, it really doesn't matter where I go, does it? She muttered. The closest school to this place is Aldra Junior High, so can I just go there? Kiyama shrugged. Sure, why not? Kiyama clicked through the websites and enrolled Izumi in Aldra Junior High. Alright, you can start in the next term in about 3 weeks, she announced. Aizawa decided he had idled long enough. Come on, Izumi. Training time. Let's see how much you've retained. That earned him a playful slap from Kiyama. Shota, you can't just do that. Sure I can. If she wants to be a combat medic hero, then she needs to be fit. Izumi simply watched as the playful argument unfolded. Another thing to note was that Izumi didn't talk much in public, which meant there wouldn't be much communication between her and her team, should she end up in one. Izumi sighed. Alright, I'll come along. Thanks, uncle. Izumi didn't see Aizawa and Kiyama as parents but more as an uncle and aunt. They were good friends with her father, so it felt fitting. After several rounds of sparring, Izumi sat down heavily and gulped down an entire bottle of water in about 10 seconds. She was dressed in shorts and a sports top for the sparring session, allowing her to move freely. Aizawa was using his capture tape and quirk to counter a unique ability Izumi had developed. Hey, you did well, kid. Ever thought of becoming an instructor? Aizawa remarked. Izumi arrived at Aldra Junior High early the next morning and decided to take a little run around the campus to familiarize herself with the buildings when she suddenly found a boy lying on the ground in pain while 3 others kicked him repeatedly. Hey! She yelled, running over to the victim and shoving the bullies aside. She knelt down to inspect the damage done to the boy, who seemed to be her age, and found several cuts and bruises all over his body, plus a broken bone. She sighed. I hate working off duty. Immediately, she touched a few fingers to his forehead, sending a warm burst of power into him, healing the bruises and closing the wounds. The poor guy ran off immediately. Izumi then stood up, dug into her bag, and took out a sandwich. She proceeded to eat it. Oi, were you in such a rush that you didn't eat breakfast or what? One of the bullies asked gruffly. It's my quirk, I get hungry after using it. I usually eat a protein bar afterward, but the sheer amount of bruises and cuts, in addition to the broken bone on this one, was slightly more than a protein bar could handle. That's why I keep a sandwich on me in addition to lunch, Izumi replied without turning around, walking off. By the way, try not to hurt other people. I hate working off duty. Who do you think you are? The blonde-haired bully yelled at her. Izumi Midoriya, professional doctor. Nice to see you haven't changed, Kaken. She shot back at Katsuki Bakugo, her childhood friend. Without looking back, Izumi Midoriya walked into the school building, completely ignoring the protests coming from behind her, until Bakugo brought up her late mother. She froze in place, her left eye beginning to twitch. I'm sorry, Kaken, could you please repeat that for me? Struck a nerve, didn't I? You're such a Deku, couldn't even save her own mother with a healing quirk. Bakugo burst into laughter. Izumi clenched her fist. You know, it's extremely rude to bring up someone's deceased relative in a mocking manner. Even more so when you do so to attack said person. Oh, I'm sorry, does it look like I care? Izumi's veins started to pop, and she gritted her teeth. I'm warning you, don't do this. Don't do what, huh? You're just a weakling. In a flash, Izumi released her wings, tearing through her school uniform, and flew into Bakugo, knocking him to the ground. She grabbed his arm and twisted it behind his back while catching him in a headlock. The impact evidently surprised him. Izumi glared at the other 2 guys around them. Her eyes were bright, seemingly glowing, and both of them flashed the same clear message. Don't retaliate or you'll be next. Both of them whimpered and ran away. Izumi held Bakugo for another 2 seconds before finally letting him go. Ugh, thanks a lot, now I have a torn uniform. She grunted, taking off the black blazer to reveal a white shirt underneath, which was already cut for her wings. She fished through her bag and found her spare blazer. She put it on and went back on her way. By the way, she said, turning back around to face Bakugo, don't bring up my mother ever again. Class was fine, although Bakugo kept shooting death glares at Izumi. Honestly, no one could really blame him. The king of the class was taken down by a new student who had just arrived that term. She quickly became the center of attention. Nearly every single student who had been picked on by Bakugo and his lackeys crowded around her during lunch break, demanding to know her name, quirk, and personal information. It was inconvenient for Izumi, to say the least. She wasn't annoyed by it, not at all, but she was exasperated because the crowd kept getting in her way. Eventually, she became annoyed. Enough! She took off her blazer and released her wings. Do you people not know the definition of privacy? Leave me alone. A gust of air blasted through the crowd, knocking them all off their feet. Only a few people managed to remain upright. If Izumi was surprised, she certainly didn't show it. Instead, she sat back down and covered herself with her massive wingspan, ignoring anyone trying to get her attention from outside. Or at least, that was her plan until she heard someone trip and fall. The building was really high up, about 5 floors, and they were on the roof. Out of reflex, Izumi jumped backward off the roof and caught the student who fell. Izumi raised an eyebrow. How did this girl fall off the roof? There was a wire fence all around the perimeter. She looked up and noticed a large hole in the fence. A hole that large couldn't have gone unnoticed. It must be recent, Izumi thought to herself. She flew back onto the roof, setting the girl down. Are you hurt? She asked in a soft tone, a drastic change from her earlier words. The girl nodded, pointing to a few scrapes and scratches on her knees and arms. Izumi sighed in response and tapped 2 fingers to her forehead in the same gesture she used to heal the bullied boy earlier that day. Please be more careful, I hate having to work off duty, Izumi murmured, then took a protein bar from her pocket and ate it. One particular nosy boy from the crowd suddenly called out, Wait, what do you mean, working off duty? I heard you say the same thing when confronting Bakugo and his lackeys. Izumi sighed in exasperation. Once again, invasion of privacy. She fished in her blazer pocket and retrieved her license, flashing it toward the crowd. But I suppose you deserve an explanation. Izumi Midoriya, professional doctor, at your service. And that was when the crowd went wild. You're Chinese, aren't you? I mean, yeah, but what should I call you? Yeah? Precisely. Oh, great. That's easier than calling you Photon Frost. I was seriously considering shortening your name to Fo. I am not a food, thank you very much. Yeah, figured. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to vote, leave a comment down below or at the sidebar, and follow for more. Peace out everybody, goodbye. Photon Frost 95, signing out. Shadow Flame 95, signing out. Izumi walked home after school, always alert for any signs of trouble screams, cries for help, anything unusual. In the back alley between 2 massive buildings, she heard the sounds of a struggle. Izumi immediately ran to the entrance, trying to assess the situation. Someone was being mugged. With a knife. Nope. Izumi muttered, charging in and tackling the mugger, twisting the arm that held the knife so he couldn't attack her. You have some explaining to do, she whispered into his ear, then, while still restraining him, pulled out her phone to call the police. However, as she loosened her grip to dial, the mugger seized the opportunity to break free and swing at her. But he never connected. The civilian being mugged jumped in the way, causing the knife to strike her. Damn it. Izumi muttered, slamming her fist into the mugger's head, knocking him out. She knelt beside the injured civilian. Damn it, this wasn't supposed to happen to you, she whispered sadly. I'll do my best. Without waiting for a response, Izumi pressed her hands over the wound. The civilian winced in pain, but Izumi held on, a green glow illuminating the blood, shifting it to a shade of purple. Izumi felt the wound close under her touch, but she also sensed the pain of the civilian flowing into her. Izumi had two ways to power her quirk. One was to use the food she consumed and convert it into energy, which was easier but ineffective for severe wounds. The second was to absorb the pain from the person she healed and convert it into energy, but she would also feel that pain, which is why she rarely used it. The last time she did was when she had to heal fallen heroes when she was 4. Her tears were not only from the loss of her mother but also from the pain she absorbed. The police arrived before she finished healing the civilian and paused in awe at the sight. After she completed the healing, Izumi collapsed from the pain, panting heavily, tears streaming down her face. "I should really stop getting into trouble wherever I go," she muttered before blacking out. Izumi woke up in a hospital bed, Aizawa and Kayama waiting beside her, along with the familiar civilian. "I never got around to thanking you for saving my life, Izumi-san," she smiled warmly. "Thank you. Don't worry about it. Just don't jump in front of me to take a knife next time. Don't hurt yourself unnecessarily, okay?" Izumi smiled back and gave the civilian a thumbs up. "Of course, but I couldn't just stand by and watch a little girl like you be attacked like that. I can take care of myself, don't worry. Just stay safe," Izumi replied then. Turned to Aizawa. "When am I being discharged?" "Tomorrow," was the simple reply. "Okay then, I'll just sleep until then." The next morning, Izumi woke up to find a crowd around her bed, mostly media, asking questions about herself and her quirk. Izumi sighed. "Look, I'd love to answer all your questions, but I'm kind of hospitalized. I'll answer your questions later, okay?" "Not now." She sat up, noticing the crowd still wouldn't dissipate. "Okay, fine. I'll answer your questions, but please leave me alone afterward. I'll give you 30 minutes, then leave me alone." The crowd erupted with questions, and Izumi raised a finger. "One question at a time, please." She pointed to one of the interviewers in the crowd. "Your question? What is your quirk?" "Figured this was coming. It's registered as divine intervention. I can heal wounds as long as I have the energy required to do so. I can either convert eaten food into energy or absorb the pain of my patients and convert that pain into energy to heal them. The downside of that last method is that I would also feel that pain. Leftover energy from that method will be stored in my body, which I can use later to heal others." She then pointed to another citizen in the crowd. "Question: Are you aspiring to be a hero?" Izumi pondered for a moment, then said, "My parents weren't heroes, but my aunt and uncle are just not biologically related. So yeah, I suppose I do want to become a hero. I'm a doctor currently, but I should be able to juggle both." Izumi asked one more person, and their question was, "Are you the same girl who healed the fallen heroes 8 years ago?" Izumi fell silent, reminded of that incident 8 years ago when she lost her mother. "Yes," she whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. "Please don't bring up that incident with me again. I beg you." At least the crowd knew when to back off. Or at least most of them did. They escorted themselves out of the room, leaving Izumi alone. Izumi lay down, her mind replaying the terrible memories of that day. "Am I making you proud, Mom? Dad?" she asked, directing the question to no one in particular. "Will I ever be able to see you again?" The tears kept falling. This was the first time in years that Izumi's composure cracked. It took her a while to calm down and collect her thoughts. Later that day, when Izumi was discharged, she arrived home and talked with Aizawa and Kayama. "I want to become a hero." "Really? Why the sudden announcement?" Kayama asked. "What the journalists asked me got me thinking. I want to help people. I want to save people. Being a doctor alone won't accomplish that." "Well, it's your choice and your choice alone. Just make sure you don't overdo it. You don't want to end up in hospitals too many times," Aizawa replied. Izumi beamed. "Thank you so much. It's been 3 years." In this time, Izumi Midoriya became an unofficial hero in the eyes of the public, known as a miracle worker with a powerful quirk that allowed her to heal people from near-fatal wounds. Her abilities were almost divine, earning her the nickname Divinity, the streetwise healer. At school, she had a good reputation, often standing up to Katsuki Bakugo's aggressive behavior towards weaker students. She was like a guardian angel for her classmates, consistently protecting them from harm. Every day after school, she flew over the city, always on the lookout for injured civilians. Time and again, she risked her life to save people from villain attacks, choosing not to fight back but to focus on healing. She endured immense pain to mend mortally wounded civilians and assisted heroes in preventing deaths and battling powerful villains. Although her actions skirted the edges of the law, the heroes allowed it since she was not using her quirk to harm anyone but herself. Izumi quickly gained popularity at the hospital where she worked. Patients with severe injuries were often assigned to her, though they would back off if she pushed herself too far. It wasn't uncommon for Aizawa and Kayama to find her working late into the night, visibly strained. Despite their deep concern for her well-being, they permitted her to continue her work as a doctor, both to strengthen her quirk and to provide her with valuable social experience. Her dedication soon caught the attention of another pro-hero, Recovery Girl, who reached out to Aizawa and Kayama, asking to mentor Izumi. Today was the fateful day when Izumi would be targeted by a villain. As she walked through a tunnel alone, a sludge-type villain suddenly emerged from a manhole behind her and ambushed her. Aware that it was illegal for her to fight back, she shielded herself with her wings, allowing the villain to climb onto them. Texas Smash! A powerful voice echoed, and help arrived swiftly. With a single blow, the villain was sent flying, reduced to a motionless pile of sludge. Izumi recognized the voice All Might, the #1 hero and symbol of peace. Though the villain was dealt with, All Might's attack had nearly damaged her wings. Izumi winced as she retracted them, her blazer once again tattered and floating down behind her. "Oh my! I am so sorry, are you all right?" All Might quickly asked, and Izumi managed a small nod. "It should heal in a few minutes," she replied, but then noticed a significant amount of pain radiating from All Might. Before she could say anything, he signed a small piece of paper and dropped it to the ground before leaping away. Izumi picked up the paper and tucked it into her bag, then took off after All Might. "All Might," she called, but he was moving faster than she could keep up, her wings not fully recovered yet. With one final burst of adrenaline, she managed to collide with his leg, grabbing on tightly. "All Might, you're hurt. You can't fight like this," she exclaimed. All Might looked back, still smiling. "I'm fine, kid, now let go." "You're not. If you're hurt, you can't protect people to the best of your ability. You need to get help." "I can't rest. If word gets out that I'm injured, the villains will start to get riled up. I can't let that happen, even if it costs me." "If it costs you, who will take your place?" she challenged. "The next generation of heroes will," he replied confidently. Izumi sighed. "Do you really believe that, All Might? You're the #1 hero, the strongest in Japan's history. Since you appeared, crime has decreased dramatically. What do you think will happen once the villains hear that you're gone? They will take the cities by force. Not every hero can handle that. The villains are relentless, which is why I must be relentless. I can't take a break." Taking a deep breath, Izumi shouted something she knew she might regret later. "It doesn't make you weak if you ask for help." All Might stared at her in disbelief, and Izumi quickly looked away, embarrassed for using a line she had hoped to avoid. Was that one of Hisashi Midoriya's famous quotes? All Might asked. Izumi thought, "So he knew my father." "Yes, he was my father. I didn't know him well, but that quote is one I completely agree with. I shouldn't have used it here. I'm so sorry." All Might sighed, his smile still in place. "You have heart, young Midoriya. Have you ever thought about becoming a hero?" Izumi nodded. "I set my sights on UA a while ago. Recovery Girl took me under her wing." All Might laughed. "That's good, young Midoriya. Keep going. I'm sure your father would be proud." Izumi smiled, but her expression turned serious. "Now you, sir, are going to accept healing like a good hero." All Might chuckled. "Of course, young Midoriya." They landed on a roof, and Izumi was about to lift All Might's shirt when his body began to steam and deflate. "What on earth?" All Might transformed to reveal. "Mr. Yagi? Oh dear. It seems my secret is out." Izumi finally pieced everything together. "I should have noticed sooner. The way you spoke like a pro-hero, your similarities in looks, even your voice should have given it away." I'm such an idiot. Toshinori Yagi, All Might's true identity. Izumi sighed. No wonder I felt so much pain from you. She lifted his shirt, revealing the same scar he had shown her years ago. Though she hadn't been able to heal it before, she was strong enough now. As her hand glided over the scar, a green glow illuminated her hands, and the scar slowly faded away. Thank you, young Midoriya. Not a problem, Mr. Yagi. Be sure to rest at least 9 hours each day. Your limit, if I had to guess, was about 3 hours, right? You've only been active for around 3 hours on the news these past days, anyway. Your limit should now be increased to 6 hours. Yagi nodded in gratitude. I'll mention you in my next interview. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed from the direction of the city. Yagi immediately tensed, locking eyes with Izumi. They both nodded and rushed toward the source of the commotion, unaware that the bottles All Might had in his pockets were missing. Izumi and All Might arrived at the scene, spotting the same sludge villain that had attacked Izumi earlier, now wreaking havoc on innocent civilians. Izumi's heart raced when she saw Katsuki Bakugo, her former childhood friend, trapped within the villain's grasp. Other heroes were struggling to intervene, some getting hurt as the sludge villain exploited Bakugo's quirk to create chaos. He's too slippery to grab. We can only wait for another hero with the more suitable quirk. Focus on rescuing the civilians, one hero shouted, but Izumi was focused solely on Bakugo. In a moment of determination, Izumi charged at the sludge villain, hardening her wings to push him back, which slightly loosened his grip on Bakugo. She spun in midair, her wings slicing through the villain, creating an opening to pull Bakugo free. What are you doing here, stupid Deku? He yelled as she tried to rescue him. Well, you looked like you needed help, and I can't ignore someone in need, Izumi replied coolly, yanking Bakugo out of the sludge while fiercely flapping her wings to keep the villain at bay. Just then, All Might arrived with a powerful Detroit smash. The impact sent sludge flying everywhere, and the force was so great it seemed to shift the weather, making it rain. All Might appeared to be at his limit but raised a fist in victory. The crowd erupted in cheers, not only for All Might but also for Divinity, the streetwise healer. The media reporters swarmed them, but Divinity quickly excused herself and left. On her way home, Izumi heard rapid footsteps behind her. She turned to see Bakugo running up to her. Deku, he shouted. Izumi sighed, wishing she had just left him behind. What do you want, Kaken? She asked, using his childhood nickname in a teasing tone. You didn't save me, all right? I didn't need your help, he yelled before turning to walk away. Did he really run all the way here just to say that? Izumi thought as she resumed her walk home. Young Midoriya. Of course, Izumi thought, recognizing the voice. Hello, Mr. Yagi, she said with a small wave. All Might deflated, revealing the familiar Toshinori Yagi. Young Midoriya, I want you to have my quirk. Izumi's eyes widened in surprise. I'm sorry, you want me to what? How would that even work? Yagi chuckled. My quirk works a bit differently compared to others. While most quirks are passed down through heritage, mine can only be transferred. Transferred? Izumi asked, curious about what he meant. My quirk is passed down like a sacred torch, keeping the embers of one for all alive while using this power for justice, Yagi explained. Izumi nodded, understanding. And you want me to have your quirk? Wouldn't that make you essentially quirkless? The previous holder of one for all can retain its powers for a limited time. After that, yes, they will be considered quirkless, Yagi clarified. And why me? I'm a healer, not a fighter, Izumi said, looking down at her feet. Your performance back there begs to differ, Yagi replied gently, lifting her chin to meet his gaze. You have potential, Izumi. Don't let it go to waste. Tears welled in Izumi's eyes. This was the first time Yagi had called her by her first name, showing his sincerity. Do you really mean that? I've never fought anyone with my quirk before. How do you know I won't mess up? She sniffled, struggling to believe his words. I will be with you every step of the way. It's normal to make mistakes, young Midoriya. A hero must learn from them. There are plenty of mistakes I've made that I can't take back, but you are different. Learn from my mistakes so you don't repeat them, Yagi said solemnly. Izumi wiped her eyes and ran up to Yagi, hugging him tightly around the waist, causing them both to stumble. Thank you, Mr. Yagi. Thank you so much for giving me this chance. I won't let it go to waste. Yagi laughed softly. It won't. Trust me. You'll do fine. You already have an accomplished pro hero as your mentor and 2 more as your adoptive parents. You'll be another great hero of the next generation, trust me. Izumi wanted to get up but also wished to stay in that moment. Forever. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. It felt comforting to be in the arms of the #1 hero. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but could you please get up? We both should be heading home now. Meet me at Dagoba Beach first thing at 6 a.m. We'll have to train your body to get used to one for all so that your limbs don't give out as soon as you receive my quirk, Yagi said with a light chuckle. Wait, hold up, my limbs will what? Izumi exclaimed, inching away from Yagi slightly. I know that you've trained in martial arts before, but you focused on technique rather than strength. To properly harness this one for all, your body needs to withstand its power, which means you need to work on your muscular strength and endurance, Yagi explained. Izumi shuddered at the thought, feeling a mix of fear and determination. She needed this to prove she was more than just a healer and protector. All right, I'll meet you there, she muttered, her voice trembling. Splendid. Now, young Midoriya, hurry along. I'm sure your uncle and aunt are worried about you. And on that note, you can call me uncle. You might as well, after all, your father was my cousin. With that surprising revelation, Yagi puffed up and quickly exited the area. Izumi stood there, processing the news. All Might was her first cousin, once removed? She felt a mix of confusion and disbelief. Could she really keep calling him Mr. Yagi after this? Maybe she could, but it seemed unlikely now. Izumi met Yagi on the beach. So what do I need to do? She asked, slightly cringing at the sight of the litter scattered around. I want you to clear all this trash off the beach. It's perfect training for your strength. Izumi stared at the enormous piles of debris. You want me, she gestured dramatically at the heaps of trash, to move all of that? Yagi nodded. Come on, you can do it. It's a great way to build your muscles. Izumi sighed, realizing the challenge ahead. All right, let's get started then. With determination, she rolled up her sleeves and prepared to tackle the task. Was strong enough, that would take forever. Izumi protested. This training regimen was adjusted with your body in mind. If I say you can do it, then you can do it. Just remember not to overwork yourself, and you'll be fine. Izumi paused for a moment, then heaved a sigh and got to work. She was about to grab a broken microwave and take off with her wings when All Might suddenly said, By the way. Time passed, and Izumi gradually moved on to more challenging tasks. She managed to lift a large trash can filled with metal scraps, which weighed about 100 pounds, quite impressive for someone her height. 16 weeks turned into months, and Izumi's body began to show noticeable changes. Aizawa and Kayama grew concerned about her intense workout routine, but she always brushed off their worries, insisting she could handle it. The hospital staff started giving her curious looks as they noticed her developing a more toned physique, but no one said anything until Izumi began to show signs of sleep deprivation. When she returned home with dark circles under her eyes, Aizawa and Kayama immediately urged her to get some rest and informed Yagi about her condition. The next time Yagi met with Izumi, he expressed his concern. Young Midoriya, have you been overworking yourself? You seem very tired. Izumi waved it off again. I'm fine, Uncle Yagi. I just had to work a little overtime at the hospital. Izumi, it's been 3 months since I first gave you this training regimen. If you don't follow it, it could do more harm than good. Yagi exclaimed. You can't keep doing this to yourself. I said I'm fine, Uncle Yagi. I just need a bit more sleep, and then I'll be okay. Izumi slightly raised her voice, then quickly realized her tone. I'm sorry. It's not that I'm taking this opportunity for granted, but this training schedule doesn't leave me much time for my usual hours at work or to help others as the streetwise healer. I adjusted the regimen to allow time for both while still getting enough sleep, But my workload has increased with more patients than I can handle in my usual hours, so I had to work overtime. I should be back to normal by the end of the week. Yagi conceded but cast one last worried glance at Izumi as she got back to work, lifting heavier household items like ovens and washing machines. Over time, Izumi improved just as she promised. However, Yagi noticed something peculiar about her behavior. She began to cough more frequently, and when she did, she would wipe her hands and mouth with a damp tissue and toss it into the nearby trash can. When confronted about it, Izumi laughed it off. "I'm fine. I'm just a bit under the weather. It should get better soon." Despite Yagi's insistence that she stay home when she was sick, Izumi refused, claiming she would rather use her time off from work to train even harder. It didn't take long for Aizawa and Kayama to catch on to what was happening with Izumi. "Izumi," Aizawa said, stopping her in her tracks and leading her to the living room. "Be honest with me. Can you heal diseases with your quirk?" "No, why?" she replied, her eyes widening at the question. "Is that why you haven't been taking care of yourself?" Izumi laughed nervously. "What do you mean? I'm just a little sick, nothing to worry about. You've been using that excuse for the past month. No simple illness lasts longer than 2 weeks. You have something more serious, don't you? That's why you've been wiping your hands and mouth after you cough. You're coughing up blood, aren't you?" Aizawa asked, his expression serious. Izumi hesitated for a moment but eventually admitted, "I'm not going to live for much longer." Aizawa sighed. "How long?" "The doctors say that I would be incredibly lucky to live past 16. Izumi's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to die yet, not until I become a hero that many can look up to." Kayama, who had been listening from the corridor, stepped in. "We'll do our best to find someone who can help you, Izumi, but for now, you need to take care of yourself. If you start feeling worse, please tell us, all right?" Izumi nodded. She knew her quirk allowed her to heal some of the damage the disease was causing her body, but she couldn't cure the disease itself, and she still experienced painful coughing fits. The truth hit Yagi hard. Izumi was dying, and it was happening quickly. How did she get this illness? When did it start? These questions swirled in his mind as he paced his apartment, struggling to process it all. He could only hope that Izumi would live past her 16th birthday. Izumi had gained admission through recommendations. It would have been surprising if she hadn't, given her skill and versatility with her quirk, not to mention her reputation on the streets. As she arrived outside Class 1A, she noticed the large door leading into the classroom. Stepping inside, she saw a few other students, a brunette with padded fingers, a tall boy who moved like a robot with engines protruding from his legs, a fiery-haired boy, a stoic guy with white and red hair, a girl with a black ponytail being eyed by a short purple-haired boy, and a floating uniform. Izumi quietly took a seat, hoping Bakugo wouldn't notice her. But her hopes were dashed when a loud "Deku" broke her concentration. Instinctively, she raised her arm to block an explosion that Bakugo was about to unleash. "Nice to see you too, Katsuki Bakugo," she grumbled, then turned to the tall boy. "Did this idiot give you any trouble?" He shook his head. He was merely being disrespectful to the upperclassmen who once used this classroom and the future students who will use it. "My name is Tenya Ida. Pleased to meet you." "And I'm Ochako Uraraka," the brunette chimed in. Izumi nodded. "I'm Izumi Midoriya." Both Ida and Uraraka flinched in surprise. "Midoriya as in Hisashi Midoriya? The famous doctor?" Uraraka exclaimed. Izumi felt her cheeks heat up. "Yeah, that's my father." Ida mentioned the rumors about her quirk being worthy of a doctor. Izumi considered revealing that she was indeed Divinity but decided against it. After all, she might not have much time left. She took a tissue from her pocket and coughed into it, instinctively crumpling it and tossing it into the trash can by the door. Uraraka gushed about how inspiring Izumi's father was, and Izumi listened quietly. "Uraraka-san, I appreciate it, but can we please not mention my dad? Or my mom?" Izumi asked. Uraraka looked confused. "Why not?" "They're gone." Izumi whispered. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll try not to mention them," Uraraka replied softly. Bakugo, trying to get Izumi's attention, shouted again, "Hey! Don't ignore me, you extras." Izumi sighed and turned around. "Shut up, Kaken." She was about to retort further when a familiar voice interrupted. "That's enough. Sheesh, you all are way too loud." The 4 students turned to see Aizawa standing at the front of the classroom behind the lectern. "Everyone sit down. My name is Shota Aizawa, and from what I can tell, none of you are fit to be heroes at the moment, but that's why you're here. Now, everyone has their gym uniforms, correct? Good, get changed and meet outside. We'll take it from there." Uraraka raised her hand. "What about orientation?" Izumi sighed. "Uraraka-san, we're heroes in training. Do we really need to participate in something like orientation?" "Well answered. Any more questions?" Aizawa asked. About 4 hands shot up, but he ignored them. "Good, now let's meet outside in 10 minutes. Don't be late, or I won't hesitate to expel you." The students grumbled as they got up to change, but Izumi knew her uncle was simply testing them. He wanted them to be able to defend themselves. When the students finally stepped outside, Aizawa nodded. "All accounted for. But now, we're going to do a quirk assessment test." He pointed to Bakugo. "You, how far was your baseball pitch in middle school?" 68.9 meters, Bakugo replied simply. Aizawa held out a baseball. "Try it with your quirk. Do whatever you want, as long as you don't leave the circle." Bakugo grinned, using his explosions to propel the ball further while yelling, "Die! Die? Seriously?" Izumi muttered. "This guy is ridiculous." Bakugo ended up pitching a little over 750 meters. Izumi observed the others. Uraraka got an impressive infinity symbol, which earned her applause. When it was Izumi's turn, she didn't throw the ball. Instead, she dropped it, crouched down, and released her wings, slamming them into the ball and launching it far away, carried by the air currents. 2,619.56 meters, Aizawa said nonchalantly, though Izumi could tell he was surprised. "That's cheating." "She didn't throw it," a student shouted from the back. "Recall what I first said, do whatever you want, as long as you don't leave the circle." "She didn't leave the circle, did she?" Aizawa grinned. "Now, we'll be going through a series of tests. The person with the lowest score will be expelled." Izumi sensed the uproar before it happened. It took a while, but eventually, everyone calmed down and began the tests. Izumi scored decently on most of them, even without using one for all. The only one she truly struggled with was grip strength, and even then, she performed better than most. When the scores were revealed, Izumi noticed she had done quite well, placing second, just behind Shoto Todoroki, who took first place. Her eyes scanned the bottom of the leaderboard, where the name, Toru Hagakure, flashed. Everyone held their breath in anticipation as Aizawa studied the results. After a moment, Aizawa looked up and said, "By the way, that was a ruse. No one is getting expelled. It was just a logical trick to motivate you all to work your hardest. You all have potential that you shouldn't waste." Izumi chuckled, as expected of the cold-hearted Eraserhead. "Silence, problem child. As I was saying, you all have potential, don't let it go to waste. Also," Aizawa turned to the floating uniform, "even if you don't have a quirk suited for combat, you can still sneak around villains easily, so you'd make a good infiltration hero. Don't be discouraged because you scored the lowest, I will ensure only the best comes out of you." Hagakure could only bow in gratitude. All Might burst through the door, entering with an exaggerated march. "All Might, please, just walk normally." Izumi muttered, "None of that marching." All Might laughed it off. "Now, as you all know, I'm your teacher for Foundational Hero Studies. Get changed into your hero costumes. They should all be over there. Be sure to grab the correct one, and let's head to Training Ground Beta." That was an abrupt way to start a lesson. The students grabbed their cases and headed to the changing rooms. Izumi took a corner for herself, changing into her hero costume, which resembled the robes of an angel, but was more fitted to prevent any mishaps. The costume made her look like a battle angel. It was all white with teal highlights. The jumpsuit, decorated with pieces of medieval body armor, fit snugly around her body, with space at the back for her wings to stretch out. There was a utility belt on the jumpsuit, allowing Izumi to carry food and medical supplies, and an extendable metal rod attached to her right shoulder blade. Izumi didn't have a very offensive quirk, so she relied on physical strength and weapons. The only non-lethal weapon she could think of was the metal rod. She exited the changing rooms first, looking around to analyze the costumes of the other students. All Might beamed with pride at how cool the students looked, declaring that they look like real heroes now. All Might announced that they would be doing a team exercise, playing villains and heroes. They drew lots to determine the teams and then further drew from boxes to decide who faced whom. Izumi was paired with Uraraka, going up against Ida and Bakugo. Okay, Uraraka, your quirk removes the pull of gravity from objects you touch, right? Izumi asked. Uraraka nodded. Great. I want you to use your quirk on me, my clothes, and my weapon. I'm going to fly. Uraraka stared at her in shock. Wouldn't you need time to adjust? Not really, it saves energy for the actual fight. Uraraka looked uncertain but complied. Izumi flew up, outside the walls of the building. Uraraka, move in, locate the bomb, and stay hidden. Remember, Bakugo's main target will likely be me, so as long as you stay out of his way, he should ignore you. Once you locate the bomb, tell me which floor it's on, and try to distract Ida from the bomb once I give you the all clear. Got it, Uraraka replied quickly. But how are you going to break in? My wings, Enough said. Okay. Uraraka muttered. Izumi nodded and hardened her wings, floating next to the building, and carved a small peak hole into the structure. Just her luck, Bakugo spotted her. DKU. Bakugo yelled. Uraraka, change of plans. I'm engaging Bakugo now, locate the bomb and do everything you can to secure it. I'll come as soon as I can. Uraraka shouted her affirmative as Izumi refocused on Bakugo. Well, I'm here now. Let's dance, Kaken. Bakugo sneered. Stop looking down on me, you nerd. Izumi swiftly avoided Bakugo's attacks. You're too predictable. You couldn't beat me last time, how do you expect to beat me this time? Izumi unleashed her wings and, after signaling Uraraka to release her zero-gravity effect, blew a massive gust of wind towards Bakugo, causing him to stumble back. You nerd, if your quirk is so amazing, what happened to your mom, huh? He yelled. That struck a nerve. Bakugo was relentless when he taunted someone. Izumi paused but managed to regain her composure, her demeanor turning icy. You don't get to talk about my mother, Katsuki Bakugo. You were there too, and what did you do when the villain attacked? You ran away like a coward while my mother was hurt. You could have prevented it. But no, you chose to run away, constantly looking down on others to hide your own cowardice. How does it feel to have that cowardice bite you back? Izumi shot back, flying at Bakugo at high speeds, wrapping her wings around herself and hardening them to create a powerful projectile. She collided with Bakugo, knocking him into the opposing wall, and released her wings. I hate you, Bakugo Katsuki. Don't show your face around me, or I won't hesitate to drop you off the top of a building, Izumi sneered, turning away. However, she didn't get far before she felt a wave of dizziness and collapsed. Back in the monitor room, people were panicking. Many assumed Bakugo had pulled a dirty trick, but when they looked back at the screen showing him, they saw him unconscious. All Might began to panic. Izumi's condition had worsened. It was the same illness that had taken Hisashi Midoriya from them far too soon, and now it was affecting Izumi rapidly. No, that's not good. All Might murmured, immediately calling off the training session and carrying Izumi to the infirmary. Izumi didn't wake up for another hour, but when she did, the first thing she did was turn on her side and cough, feeling the remnants of her illness. She placed a hand on her chest, focusing her energy to heal the damaged cells in her heart and lungs. Swinging her legs off the bed, she attempted to walk back to the classroom, but was stopped by Recovery Girl, who placed a medical choker around her neck to monitor her health. Class 1A had a field trip to the USJ that day. After checking in on Izumi to ensure she was all right, Yagi took her to UA. Upon arrival, Izumi was bombarded with questions from her classmates, all of which she brushed off. She didn't want them worrying about her condition, So she simply told them she had overexerted her quirk and that the choker was just a precaution for Recovery Girl to monitor her usage. The bus to UA was soon departing the campus. Ida struggled to maintain order as the class boarded, the bus being a different kind than he was accustomed to. The students discussed their quirks, sharing insights into the strengths and weaknesses of their abilities. When the bus pulled up to the USJ, the class stepped inside and gasped at the vastness of the building. Pro Hero 13 introduced herself, enthusiastically explaining the different zones and rules of the USJ, but was interrupted when Kirishima pointed out a purple mist in the plaza. "Hey, what's that?" Kirishima asked, pointing toward the mist. "No, it can't be." 13 began, taking a deep breath. Aizawa immediately tensed. Villains emerged from the purple mist, but many of the students mistook them for actors. "Cool. They even have fake villains here," Kirishima exclaimed, but Izumi quickly interjected. "No, those are real villains. I've been here before, there has never been a course with fake villains." She warned, "Get ready to either fight or run, depending on what happens." "I can't get in touch with the school," 13 shouted, panic creeping into her voice. Izumi narrowed her eyes and turned off her medical choker. If the information stops coming through, Recovery Girl will definitely know something is wrong. 3 more villains appeared, one of them demanding, "Where is All Might? We were told he would be here today." Izumi's heart raced. "They're after Uncle Yagi?" she thought, relieved that All Might had taken her advice to ease up on hero work, but now that he wasn't here. "Well, we might as well get his attention by taking out some of these UA students," one villain sneered. Izumi immediately released her wings. The villain with hands all over his body turned toward her. "Those wings, are you the one they call Divinity?" Izumi was taken aback that the villain recognized her when her classmates did not, but her expression hardened. "That's right. I will not let any of these people die." She charged at the swarm of villains, ignoring the calls of 13 and Aizawa. The rest of the students stood in shock until the purple mist snapped them back to reality. Izumi landed among the villains, swiftly taking them down one by one with her metal rod. Aizawa cursed under his breath and jumped in to assist. "I will allow you all to fight if necessary, but do not engage unless they attack first," Aizawa shouted, just before they were separated. Izumi and Aizawa fought back to back, taking down any villain that dared to approach. Suddenly, the hand villain lunged at Aizawa. Izumi quickly turned and knocked him away with her rod, earning a grunt of gratitude from Aizawa. Then, a sinister chuckle echoed from the hand villain. "Nomu," he said simply. The monstrous creature, apparently named Nomu, seized Aizawa by the head and slammed him into the ground. Izumi watched helplessly as dark stains appeared on the ground. Gritting her teeth, Izumi channeled her energy into her body. "I've never tried this before, let's see how I hold up," she muttered as she leaped at the Nomu and struck it with a fraction of her power. It barely flinched, as if her punch was nothing more than a minor annoyance. Even as the ground around it began to crack, the Nomu held firm. Angered, Izumi placed a hand on Aizawa, transferring some of his pain into her fist and redirecting it toward the Nomu. The creature reacted, its head distorting as it released Aizawa. Izumi quickly grabbed him and pulled him away from the beast. Suddenly, the Nomu's head returned to its normal shape. Izumi scowled, frustrated by the creature's resilience. Just then, Purple Ball flew toward the Nomu, sticking it to the ground. Izumi turned to see Mineta frantically tearing the sticky ball from his head and throwing them at the creature. In the next moment, ice shot in from the other direction, freezing the Nomu in place and cracking its limbs. Yet again, it regenerated. How many quirks does this thing have? Izumi wondered. Regeneration, shock absorption, power boost, what's next, rejuvenation? As if in response, the Nomu bent itself into a portal created by the purple mist, reaching for Izumi in an attempt to crush her. She shielded herself with her wings just in time for the Nomu's massive hands to clamp around them. Izumi hardened her wings, but she could feel them straining under the immense pressure. Suddenly, the door burst open, and All Might stood there, his expression serious. "I would say that I am here, but," he growled as he charged down the stairs, dispatching the remaining villains with ease. I am seriously angry. All Might then seized the Nomu, prying its hands off Izumi's wings and throwing it far away. The hand villain laughed. Give it up, All Might. This Nomu is designed to withstand your full power. And you've gotten weaker, haven't you? You'll fall, All Might. It's not too late for you to run and save yourself. All Might chuckled dryly. If this creature is meant to surpass my full strength, then I'll just have to push myself even further. Plus Ultra. He and the Nomu exchanged rapid blows, each landing hits on the other in a flurry of movement. Izumi could see that All Might was pouring everything he had into his punches, focusing his strength on a single point on the Nomu. With one final, powerful strike, All Might sent the dark figure crashing through the roof of the U. However, the moment of triumph was fleeting as Izumi suddenly doubled over, coughing violently. When she activated her choker again, the emergency buzzed, signaling a code red, indicating that her condition was worsening. The device didn't explicitly state her illness was acting up. It simply repeated, code red, code red, code red, over and over. All Might was about to rush to her aid when Aizawa intervened. Go help the other students. I'll take care of her. He quickly scooped Izumi up and carried her back to the bus. Izumi bumped into Uraraka and Ida on her way back to the classroom. Izumi-chan. Uraraka exclaimed with tears of relief when she saw her friend was safe. I thought you were in serious trouble. What happened? Izumi looked at her friends and sighed. I suppose saying I overused my quirk isn't enough for you now, is it? Uraraka shook her head. No quirk usage can have effects that severe. Izumi sighed again. Well, Uraraka, you're right. I am facing a serious situation. Those words shocked her friends. I have a disease that attacks my cells and deteriorates the tissue in my heart and lungs. My healing quirk can manage it for a while, but eventually the disease will outpace my ability to heal. Izumi explained, watching as Uraraka's tears turned to sorrow. What? But you're such a good hero. And you're Divinity too. You can't just leave us. People need you. Ida exclaimed, gesturing emphatically. Izumi simply sighed. The truth is, I can heal my damaged cells, but I can't cure this disease. Unless someone finds a way to cure me, which is highly unlikely. This is the same disease that took my father. The doctors said that at this rate, I'd need an incredible slide of luck to live past 16. Both Ida and Uraraka stared at her in disbelief. Wait, but you're 15 right now. Ida said. Exactly. I have less than a year to live. Izumi said, but in the time I have left, I want to help as many people as I can. That's why I've taken on the mantle of Divinity. I want to make a difference, even without a license. Ida nodded. That's very noble of you, but unfortunately, this world will be missing a great hero once you're gone. Uraraka slapped him lightly. Ida, don't talk like there's no chance of her living. She can still get incredibly lucky. She said so herself, didn't she? Izumi placed a comforting hand on Uraraka's shoulder, tilting her face to meet her gaze. Uraraka, it's okay. I'll be fine. Just keep smiling and become a great hero after I'm gone, okay? Uraraka sniffled and suddenly hugged Izumi tightly. Stop talking like you're definitely going to leave us. I can't handle it. Izumi was taken aback by the sudden embrace but eventually melted into the hug. Sorry, Ochako-chan, I'll stop saying that. I'll try to live, for you, for my friends, for my family. Uraraka flinched at the use of her first name but accepted it, knowing Izumi was one of her closest friends. Ida then pointed out something Izumi had mentioned earlier. Midoriya, didn't you say you lost both of your parents? Who else is in your family? Izumi looked up from Uraraka's shoulder. Ida-kun, I still have living relatives. My first cousin, once removed, is still around. I'm currently staying at his friend's house, who was also my father's friend, so we still share a bond. Uraraka perked up at the mention of Izumi's cousin. Your first cousin? Can I meet him? Izumi debated whether to reveal that her first cousin was All Might but decided against it. I can see if I can invite you both over. I'll give cousin Yagi a call later today to see if he can come. Izumi sighed. Just Be cautious around my aunt and uncle, the two I'm living with right now, because they'll probably recognize you. Ah, so you told them about us? Ida asked curiously, but Izumi chuckled. No, they're quite familiar with you already. My uncle, coincidentally, is a teacher here at UA. My aunt is as well, but she isn't as familiar with you. Izumi replied, leaving Ida and Uraraka to ponder her uncle and aunt's identities. Izumi didn't make it far into the classroom before being bombarded with questions from the rest of the class. She looked at Aizawa for help, but her guardian simply shrugged and gestured for her to answer. What happened back at the USJ? And during the training session? You were coughing so much. Ashido asked, then reconsidered her question. And don't say you overused your quirk. No quirk has such a severe side effect on the user's own body. Not a healing quirk, anyway. Izumi paused, realizing this was the moment her entire class would learn about her illness. She knew the disease wasn't contagious, so she wasn't worried about that. Her concern was how her classmates would react. Deciding to be honest, she gave a similar explanation to the one she had shared with Uraraka and Ida, omitting the part about her likely fate. Are you really Divinity? As in the streetwise healer? Azui asked. Yes, Siu, I'm the real Divinity. The media was becoming increasingly bothersome, surrounding Izumi and bombarding her with intrusive questions. Most of the time, she simply flew away. Izumi sighed, recalling a particular incident when reporters had invaded her hospital room. Mineta was about to ask something, but Izumi anticipated it would be inappropriate, so she swiftly knocked him out with a roundhouse kick. I'm not dealing with his nonsense right now, she muttered. Seriously, how did someone like him even get into UA? He can't be a good hero if he can't be a decent person. Then there was one more question, this time from Todoroki. What's your relationship with All Might? The UA Sports Festival was approaching, and Izumi was training hard with her mentor. Uraraka and Ida insisted on joining them, leaving All Might with no choice but to stay as Cousin Yagi. Cousin Yagi! Izumi called out upon seeing him. He turned toward her. Why did you start calling me Cousin Ya instead of Uncle Yagi? Yagi asked. I thought I told you to call me Uncle. Izumi nodded. I know, but it felt strange calling you Uncle when you're technically my cousin, even if you are much older than I am. Yagi sighed. I suppose that makes sense. Izumi giggled. I'm glad you understand. Anyway, these are my friends, Uraraka and Ida, the ones I told you about. Yagi nodded. I see. You mentioned that they also know about your condition? Izumi nodded. Well, my whole class knows, so there's no point in hiding it anymore. Uraraka peeked out from behind Izumi. Izumi-chan, didn't you say your cousin was a lot more muscular? That question raised alarm bells in Yagi's mind. Right about that? Do you two promise to keep a secret? Izumi asked. We've kept many. Ida replied. How many more do you want us to keep? Izumi laughed. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Do you want to show them now, Cousin Yagi? Show them what? He asked sheepishly. Izumi sighed. Your quirks, silly. Don't worry, they can keep secrets. Yagi sighed. All right then. Actually known by another name. Other than Tashinori Yagi. My alias is. He transformed into All Might, otherwise known as the symbol of peace. He quickly returned to his normal form. I don't want more people knowing than necessary, okay, Izumi? Uraraka and Ida stared in shock as Izumi nodded. Your first cousin once removed, is All Might? Uraraka whispered, realizing that All Might wanted to keep it a secret. Izumi simply nodded. Now let's train. The UA Sports Festival had arrived, and after dealing with some distractions outside the 1A classroom, all 20 members of Class 1A walked onto the field as Present Mike commentated. Midnight stepped up to the podium and silenced the audience with a crack of her whip. Now, let's welcome our Class 1A representative for our students' pledge, Izumi Midoriya. Izumi approached the mic. Before I begin my pledge, I'd like to thank everyone who made it to this venue, as well as all the students participating in this sports festival. I pledge to give my all in this event. I won't insult anyone here by going easy on them, so I won't expect anyone to take it easy on me, even with my condition. Izumi inwardly cursed herself for mentioning it. But remember, whether you win or lose in this festival doesn't matter. What matters is our personal growth from the experiences we share here. We all know the motto, so let's say it together: go beyond. Plus ultra. Everyone in the stadium chanted, clapping and cheering for her. However, Midnight looked at her with concern. Hold on, did you say condition? The applause quickly faded. Izumi nodded. It's not contagious, so there's no need to worry about the health of the other students. She clarified. Midnight nodded, satisfied. She was aware of the condition but needed Izumi to clarify to prevent others from avoiding her. Alright, now for our first event, the obstacle race. Midnight announced. As Present Mike explained the rules, Uraraka looked at Izumi worriedly. Are you sure you'll be okay with your condition? It's knocked you out before, hasn't it? Izumi nodded. I'll be fine, don't worry. As long as I keep healing my lungs and heart, it shouldn't get too bad. Now start. Izumi immediately spread her wings and charged through the ranks of the first years. Stupid Deku, don't think for a second that you got rid of me. Bakugo yelled from behind her, catching up with his explosions. Oh my! Izumi Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo seemed to be tied for first place. Present Mike commented. Bakugo zoomed ahead and blasted backward at Izumi, trying to knock her out of the sky. Izumi instinctively dodged the explosions and slammed a hardened wing into Bakugo's back, sending him downward. Despite their rivalry, they both noticed the 0-point robots from the entrance exams. And now, our first obstacle. Robo Inferno. How will the first years deal with the 0-point robots from the entrance exams? Present Mike yelled. Izumi quickly scanned the 0-pointers, pumping her wings and ignoring Bakugo as she tore through the robots with her enhanced strength from One for All. Her goal wasn't to clear a path, she barreled forward, slicing through 2 of them with her massive wingspan. Oh wow! Midoriya just tore through 2 of them like it was nothing. And there's also Shoto Todoroki and Momo Yaoyorozu, cutting through them effortlessly. What did you teach your students, Eraser? Present Mike exclaimed. I didn't teach them anything. This is all their own training, came the bored response. Izumi stifled a laugh at her uncle's indifference. Oh, now the students have broken through to the next obstacle. Prepare yourselves for the fall. Present Mike continued. The fall was simply a deep canyon with multiple stone pillars tethered together by ropes. Right in the middle of the track. How did UA afford this? Izumi shrugged it off and flew over the canyon, effectively clearing it without too much trouble, all the while dodging attacks from other students attempting to slow her down. She was familiar with Minetta's quirk, so instead of trying to bat his projectiles away, she simply weaved through them. Here is your next and final obstacle. The minefield. Although it seems to me like Izumi Midoriya is going to clear this one effectively too. Izumi flew down low, dangerously close to the landmines, and continued to duel with Bakugo and Todoroki, who had caught up to them. After a while, she grinned, curling her hand into a fist and throwing a punch downwards, boosted by One for All. The impact triggered many landmines, propelling her forward while knocking Bakugo and Todoroki back. And a massive explosion boosts Midoriya but knocks Bakugo and Todoroki back. Such ingenious planning! Mike exclaimed into the microphone. And our winner is Izumi Midoriya. As the next game was explained, Uraraka and Ida congratulated Izumi on her win. That was amazing thinking, Izumi-chan. Uraraka gushed. I wish I was as smart as you. Yes, that was an excellent move, Midoriya. You would be a better class rep than me, Ida commented. Thanks, guys, but remember that this is only the beginning. I expect you all to go all out on me because I won't go easy on you either. Izumi grinned, holding out a fist. Uraraka and Ida bumped fists with her and then refocused on the explanation. You will have 15 minutes to choose your teams, and the person who came in first place gets 10 million points. Midnight announced. Time starts now. Izumi considered that information. So if I have the most points, I would be targeted, meaning that no one would want to be on a team with me as they all want a shot at taking the 10 million for themselves. Forming a team will be hard. Suddenly, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Izumi-chan. We should team up. Uraraka said excitedly. Izumi smiled. Of course, welcome to the team. They tried to recruit Ida, but he ended up walking away to join Todoroki's team. A support course student approached them. Hey, you're Mrs. 10 million, right? We should team up. My gadgets will surely bring us to victory. Mei Hatsum. Izumi had encountered her before. She was the support student who had once thought it would be a good idea to attach a grapple to her wings. With no other options in mind, Izumi hesitantly agreed. We don't necessarily need a fourth member, but we might as well recruit another one, she thought. She walked over to Tokoyami. Tokoyami, would you like to join our team? He looked over at her and nodded. Sure. Now Izumi's team gathered together to discuss their plan. My wings can be hardened to protect us. If possible, we should simply huddle together, and anyone who breaks through our defenses, which is already quite unlikely, can be warded off with Dark Shadow. Should we need to run, Hatsum's gadgets should be able to help us escape, and Ochako-chan can make us all lighter so that the boosters can support our weight. Should we need to fight, I'll fly. As long as I don't touch the ground, we won't be disqualified. Izumi summarized, watching as the others nodded in understanding and agreement. The countdown ended, and the cavalry battle began. Izumi released her wings and blew a massive gust of wind at the other cavalry teams, making it very difficult for them to move and attack with ranged abilities. Izumi maintained the gust of wind as Present Mike commentated. And Team Midoriya seems to be doing amazingly well right off the bat. The gusts of wind are very effective against the other teams. Then, Izumi realized something they could do. Ochako-chan. Once they get close, touch them and float them away, she called down to Uraraka. Understood, was the reply. The first team that approached Izumi's team was Team Todoroki, who relied on Ida's speed and Yaoyorozu's creation quirk to create an aerodynamic shield and rush Team Midoriya. Izumi noticed Shoto Todoroki's hand about to snatch away the headband when she flung up her hand, boosted by 10% of One for All's power, and knocked his hand away. Uraraka took that chance to apply the effects of her quirk to their entire team, allowing Izumi to easily blow them away, but not before Yaoyorozu anchored them with a giant weight. Release! Uraraka muttered, knowing that she couldn't float everyone at once or the backlash of her quirk would disable her for a while. Team Midoriya has yet to even take a single step. Is this the mind of the #1 recommendation student? Present Mike exclaimed. And now, the other teams have given up on the 10 million and are now taking each other's headbands. Izumi nodded in satisfaction. Her plan was working. Okay, Dark Shadow, try your best to take the other team's headbands, she said to Tokoyami's sentient quirk. Understood, he replied, giving her a mock salute. Only 2 other teams were chasing after them, Team Bakugo and Team Todoroki. Sheesh, these guys don't know when to give up. Izumi muttered. Izumi wrapped her wings around her team protectively, hardening them to keep them safe. She could feel the attacks on the outside of her wings: acid, electricity, ice, explosions, but they didn't budge. Izumi curled her right hand into a fist and did something she never thought she would do. She used One for All at full power. She whipped open her wings and punched outwards, creating a massive air blast that knocked the other 2 teams away. Izumi recoiled in pain but gritted her teeth and healed her arm, taking that pain within herself and converting it to stockpiled power, similar to One for All. Once again, her punch sent many teams stumbling, and Izumi repeated the process of throwing a powerful One for All punch, then healing, and using the stockpiled pain to throw a less powerful attack. Izumi-chan, you can't keep hurting yourself to keep the other teams off us. Uraraka screamed from underneath her. It's fine, Shiki-chan. It won't have any lasting damage on me. Izumi insisted, pausing to catch her breath. Suddenly, Tokoyami grunted in alarm, pulling Izumi's focus back to Team Todoroki. Ida's engines roared to life, flames shifting to a fierce blue. Izumi cursed under her breath, raising her right arm to shield her head while extending her left arm outward. Team Todoroki zoomed past, leaving her little time to grab Todoroki's headbands and protect her own. Unfortunately, she could only snatch Todoroki's headbands and failed to defend herself. "No!" Izumi shouted, launching herself into the air and diving toward Todoroki. At that moment, she heard Bakugo's furious voice, "Die, half be." Both Izumi and Bakugo raced to seize the 10 million headband, but just as their fingers brushed against it, the buzzer sounded, signaling the end of the round. Bakugo crashed face-first into the ground while Izumi rolled to absorb the impact. "It's fine, we're in third, that's good enough," Izumi muttered. Little did she know, an irate Bakugo snuck up behind her and unleashed a powerful explosion. Izumi woke to the sound of shouting and panic. Rubbing her head, she sat up. "What's going on? What happened?" she asked. Uraraka leaped onto her, eyes wide with concern. "Izumi-chan, I thought you were going to die. Your head was so burnt, I thought for sure you wouldn't make it," she cried. Izumi turned her attention to Bakugo, who was staring at her. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away and trudged over, offering her a hand. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't know what came over me," he muttered, barely audible. Izumi stared at his hand in disbelief. The Bakugo she knew would never do this, not even under duress. "Are you okay, Katsuki? Do you need me to fetch recovery girl, or?" she started, but he interrupted. "And don't call me Kakin. It's Katsuki." Izumi smiled softly and took his hand. "All right then, Katsuki," she whispered, then began coughing into her sleeve. When she recovered, she noticed blood on her sleeve but waved it off. "I'm fine. Don't worry about it." The sports festival continued, though concerned glances were cast in Izumi's direction. "All right. The first two combatants of this third round are Shinso Hitoshi, the underdog rising to the top, and Izumi Midoriya, the angel from above." Present Mike announced. Izumi and Shinso faced each other. She had been observing her potential opponents and gathered that Shinso possessed some kind of mind control quirk. She knew that physical shock could break the effect, but she had no idea what triggered his quirk, if anything at all. She assumed it had nothing to do with eye contact, as he would have already taken control of her. "Ready. Begin," Midnight declared as she brought down her whip. "So, what's your deal with that angry Pomeranian over there?" Shinso asked, gesturing toward the student spectators. "He blew you up pretty good for no reason. Any reason for that?" Izumi saw no reason to answer, so she simply sighed. "Too talkative," she muttered to herself before charging at Shinso, her wings spread and hardened. He tried to slide beneath her wings, but as he did, her wings lost their hardness and slammed into him. Shinso hit the ground hard, and Izumi ensured her strike caused pain but was not lethal. "Oh. I struck a nerve, didn't I? Did you leave his mother to die or something? Is that why he hates you?" he grinned from the ground. Izumi felt a surge of anger. "He was the one who left my mother to die, you insensitive," she yelled, drawing back her fist to punch him. But before she could, her vision blurred, then cleared. However, she found herself unable to move. "Turn around and walk away," she heard Shinso command. Against her will, her body turned and began to exit the ring. Izumi remained calm, quickly analyzing her situation. She realized she could still control her quirk, but at that moment, she began coughing up blood. The violent fit snapped her out of the trance, and she turned to Shinso with fury in her eyes. A dark aura enveloped her wings and body, transforming them into a shadowy form. If looks could kill, Shinso would have been finished. He instinctively backed away from the now menacing figure before him. Izumi charged at him with incredible speed, knocking him out of the ring with a powerful kick. A loud crunch echoed as he cried out in pain, clutching his side. "If murder wasn't illegal, I would have made you suffer in the most painful way possible, found a way to revive you, and done it all over again," she hissed, then knocked him out with a swift chop to the neck. Midnight stood speechless for a moment before finally managing to announce, "Izumi Midoriya wins this match." Her voice trembled, as if questioning the legitimacy of the victory. She, along with Aizawa and Present Mike, felt intimidated by the dark power Izumi had displayed. Izumi turned away, casting one last glare at the unconscious Shinso before walking back to the waiting room, leaving a stunned audience in the arena. Good grief, you really need to get that aspect of your quirk under control. Recovery Girl scolded Izumi. No one needed to see that side of you. Izumi rubbed the back of her head. Sorry, Sensei. It's just that Shinso shouldn't have provoked me like that. He needs to learn to respect people's personal information. That doesn't give you an excuse. Control your emotions. That darker side can be dangerous if left unchecked. Use it in controlled bursts, but don't let it take over when you're fueled by anger. Be glad that you didn't use it along with One for All. Do you know how badly injured Shinso is? Recovery Girl exclaimed, giving Izumi a few firm pats on the arm before moving to the other side of the infirmary to treat Shinso. Izumi apologized once more and stepped out of the infirmary, only to come face to face with Uraraka, who looked visibly shaken. Izumi sighed, I'm sorry. It's the holidays, okay? Cut me some slack. No. You had every chance to update, but you spent all your time playing games instead, Uraraka replied, crossing her arms. Not just one game, Izumi defended. There was also Mobile Legends and Dead by Daylight Mobile. And PUBG Mobile. Uraraka added with a smirk. They fine. But why aren't you more concerned about your readers? Izumi asked. They can handle the weight, Uraraka insisted. I disagree. Just because there are no comments asking for an update doesn't mean they don't want one. Whatever. Just hurry up and publish this already. As you wish. Izumi faced Todoroki with determination, her wings spread wide and her expression serious. Even the audience could sense her frustration. As midnight signaled the start of the match, Izumi charged at Todoroki, dodging the icy blasts he sent her way. She didn't bother to break the ice. Instead, she evaded his attacks until the arena was completely frozen. You can't beat me like this, Todoroki-kun. Why are you holding back? Is it because of my condition? Izumi challenged. It has nothing to do with that, he replied with a sneer. Then why do you hold back? In every training session, you never use your left side. You can't become a hero if you're always holding back, she huffed, clearly frustrated. I refuse to use my father's quirk to fight, Todoroki started, but Izumi interrupted him with a swift punch that he narrowly avoided. Your father's quirk? She pressed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your father's quirk is Hellfire, isn't it? It is. What's your point? He shot back. And your quirk is half hot, half cold, right? Todoroki nodded. So how is that your father's quirk? Hellfire and half hot, half cold are very different. Part of my quirk comes from his. Of course it's his quirk. Todoroki exclaimed, his impatience growing. Izumi paused for a moment. You know who my father is, right? Yes, what about him? Am I my father? Of course not, that's obvious. Exactly. You are not Endeavor either. You don't have to be like him. You can choose your own path. Yes, part of you is influenced by him, but that doesn't define you. You are your own person, and yet you let your father's actions control you. You despise him, yet you rebel against him in a way that only makes you more like him. Izumi's voice rose, and for a moment, her form flickered, her wings shifting from white to black. People like you, she growled, really frustrate me. You claim to rebel against someone you don't want to become, but in doing so, you only allow yourself to mirror them more. Accept who he is, because part of him is part of you. You don't want to be like your father? That's fine, but don't drown yourself in hatred. It only brings harm. One day, you'll face an opponent who will force you to use your left side. With that, she lunged at Todoroki again, her speed increasing. Instinctively, he raised both arms to block her instead of using his quirk. The audience could see the outcome of the fight becoming clearer. Give up, Todoroki-kun. Or use your left side. The choice is yours. Suddenly, Izumi clutched her head in pain, and when she moved her hand away, her left eye had changed from green to red, with a black scara. Well, it's been a long time since I last saw the light of day. I must admit, Izumi, you did a good job suppressing me. Sadly, you couldn't hold on to your anger, could you? A disembodied voice echoed in the arena. What do you want, Izuku? Izumi grunted. You're not usually this persistent. Oh no, I'm perfectly fine, just trapped in my sister's body while dying a horrible death. Definitely not something that would drive me insane, he replied sarcastically. Izuku, you died when we were 3. Get over it, Izumi groaned. Suddenly, a bright light illuminated the arena, forcing everyone to look away. When they turned back, they saw 2 figures, one with white angelic wings and the other with black demonic wings. What's happening? Izuku asked, bewildered, realizing he was in a different body. If I'm not mistaken, my body split into 2. Izumi attempted to explain. And your consciousness inhabited the other body? The audience was left in shock, witnessing the impossible. Izumi quickly shook off her daze. You know what? We'll deal with this later. Izuku, go sit in the bleachers or something. We'll deal with this after the tournament, she said, gesturing vaguely towards the bleachers before diving towards Todoroki once more, as if nothing had happened. Caught off guard, Todoroki quickly raised his left arm and instinctively unleashed a jet of flames at her. Finally, you're not holding back, Izumi sighed. Took you long enough. With a grin, she charged a massive blast of one for all in her arm and slammed it into Todoroki's flames. Cementos barely had time to react and put up several sheets of concrete walls before a tremendous explosion erupted. When the smoke cleared, Izumi stood at the center of the arena while Todoroki was slightly off the edge. The winner is Izumi Midoriya. Izumi walked back onto the arena after reconciling with her brother. Her next opponent was Ida. The two eyed each other intently, the tension palpable. I won't go easy on you, Ida-kun, Izumi smiled. Likewise for you, Ida replied with a smile of his own. Midnight cracked her whip and announced the match's start. Izumi immediately launched herself into the air, preparing to strike. Ida stood still, observing her movements. As Izumi dove at him, Ida quickly dodged her blow. In the brief moment she was near the ground, he launched a kick, which she blocked with one of her wings. Izumi shot back into the sky. The two were at a standstill. Izumi couldn't land a hit, and Ida couldn't reach her. To the audience, it seemed like a stalemate. However, both Izumi and Ida had their respective trump cards. Izumi charged one for all in her fingers while Ida overcharged his engines. Izumi launched a series of ranged attacks at Ida, who managed to avoid them all and soared into the air, seizing the opportunity to attack her. Izumi anticipated this and hardened her wings, absorbing the blow. It was a powerful hit that knocked her out of the sky, but she regained her balance just before landing outside the arena. She rose back into the air, just out of Ida's reach. By this point, both had exhausted their quirks. It was clear to the audience. This was a battle of endurance. Whoever could hold out the longest would be the victor. Izumi smirked. That was a strong kick, she commented, landing on the arena. Sadly, your engines are stalling, aren't they? My quirk is exhausted too, so we might as well go hand to hand. Ida smiled. Whatever you wish. As soon as those words left his mouth, Izumi charged at him. While they exchanged blows in the arena, Izuku watched from the bleachers. How is my sister so strong? That's amazing, he thought. I wonder what will happen to me? Next to him, Bakugo sneered. Just as nerdy as your sister, huh? I have no intention of talking to you, Kakin, Izuku growled, borrowing his sister's nickname for Bakugo. Bakugo's eye twitched, but he eventually decided to leave Izuku alone. After all, no one knew how to talk to someone who had come back from the dead. Most people avoided him like the plague. The only ones who didn't were Uraraka and Ida, due to their friendship with Izumi, and Bakugo, who really couldn't care less. As attention returned to the arena, Izumi and Ida were both panting heavily. Neither seemed in any condition to fight, but Izumi remained standing while Ida had to sit down to catch his breath. I resign, Ida panted. Good fight. Izumi smiled and offered him a hand. You did well. Work on your stamina and training, and try not to rely too much on your quirk. You don't stand a chance in hand-to-hand combat if you keep insisting on using your legs. Ida nodded and accepted her hand. The winner is Izumi Midoriya. So what's going to happen to my brother? He's officially registered as dead, Izumi asked. She, Izuku, Aizawa, and Kayama were in one of the preparation rooms discussing Izuku's situation. Aizawa thought for a moment. You mentioned that before he was separated from your body, he could inhabit and sometimes control it? That's essentially it. We could communicate in our heads, but this was the first time he actually took control of my body, Izumi explained. Izuku rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Yeah, about that. I just wanted to see the outside world again. You keep me in this eternal darkness. It'd be silly not to want to see the light of day. Izumi let out a soft but frustrated sigh. Izuku, you know why I don't let you control my body. The public would freak out if they saw me with one red eye and one green eye, especially if the scara of the red eye turned black. It would be even worse if I was seen switching between the two. Sibling quirks? Kayama said, drawing everyone's attention. What? Izumi asked, coughing into her hand. Sibling quirks are a rare set of quirks that only work when another of their set is present. You two seem to have a sibling quirk along with your individual quirks. That's true. Izuku awakened his quirk right before he died, and the government called it demonic interference, while mine is called divine intervention. And now this. Sibling quirk? Izumi muttered. Could it be possible that Izuku inhabiting my body was part of it? Now that he has a separate body. Izuku suddenly gasped. Could it be that while one of us is alive, the other cannot die? Izumi shook her head. No, that can't be it. No quirk in the world can do that. I think it's more like we can switch our consciousness back and forth when one of us inhabits the other's body. Hold on, let me try something. Izumi concentrated on taking over Izuku's body, but before anything happened, his body faded from sight. Izumi felt her consciousness re-enter her body. She shut her eyes and reopened them, revealing one green eye and one red eye. Well, this is awkward, Izuku commented using Izumi's body. Izumi sighed. Well, I suppose we somewhat figured out our sibling quirk's abilities. Aizawa sighed. Well, you should name this quirk Blood Bond. Both siblings took control at the same time and said the same thing. Kayama laughed. Well, we should probably get back out there. The finals are beginning soon. Izumi was waiting in the waiting room when Bakugo barged in. Ah! Why are you here, you stupid Deku? He yelled. Izumi didn't reply. Instead, she just pointed at the doorway. Bakugo looked and realized he was in the wrong waiting room. Izumi couldn't help but snort. What are you laughing at, Deku? Bakugo scowled. Your mistake and your futile efforts to cover it up, Izumi replied coolly. Bakugo developed an irk mark on the side of his forehead. He was about to strike at Izumi when she stopped him. We have plenty of time to settle this in the arena. Save your strength. I want to fight you at full power. Bakugo grinned. You're going to regret that. Izumi shrugged. Yeah, we'll see about that. Let's see if you have the strength to beat me. Bakugo sneered and left the room. Izumi waited until Present Mike announced their names for the next match, the grand finals. She walked onto the arena. Bakugo faced her, grinning like a maniac. He pointed at her, then ran his thumb across his throat, signaling his intent to win. Izumi simply shrugged, pointed to herself, and made a finger gun at Bakugo. Let the grand finals begin. Midnight announced, and both Bakugo and Izumi shot at each other with astounding speed, surprising the audience and each other. Bakugo launched multiple explosions at Izumi, who swiftly avoided all of his attacks. Try harder than that, Kaken. I can read your movements, she taunted. You think you're going to win? Then go all out. She punched him in the face, enraging him. When Izumi put some distance between them, Bakugo pointed his palm at her and launched a huge explosion. It was similar to the one he used to thwart Uraraka's plan. Izumi didn't flinch. She drew back her fist and punched into the explosion. The opposing forces canceled each other out, knocking both Izumi and Bakugo back. Izumi anchored herself to the ground with her wings while Bakugo propelled himself forward with his explosions. When the shockwave cleared, Izumi looked up to see Bakugo right in front of her. She reacted quickly, grabbing his arm and flipping him over her shoulder, slamming him into the ground. Bakugo smirked, pointing his palm inward at Izumi's face and releasing an explosion. However, Izumi was expecting this. She threw her head back and let go of Bakugo's arm. He took this chance to get up and fire another explosion at her. Izumi quickly shielded herself with her wings, but when she opened them again, Bakugo was already in front of her, hand pointed towards her face. She bent backward, narrowly, avoiding Bakugo's explosion yet again, but he had other plans. He grabbed her by the leg and propelled himself into the sky. When he reached a height he deemed sufficient, he pointed his free hand upward and shot a massive barrage of explosions, using the recoil to drive himself and Izumi toward the ground. Izumi curled her wings around herself, but there was a spot on her back that remained exposed. Bakugo hooked his legs around Izumi's and aimed his other hand at her back, but before he could fire, Izumi unfurled her wings, slamming them into his face and knocking him off her. Now Izumi was on top. "Did you really expect me to leave that spot unguarded?" Izumi asked calmly, then sighed. "Well, no matter, let's finish this right here, right now." Bakugo said nothing, he only grinned wickedly. Raising an arm, he launched a blast at Izumi, but she didn't even flinch. The explosion singed her face slightly, but she brushed away the soot without showing much pain. Meanwhile, she kept driving Bakugo down toward the ground. They were about 10 meters away from the ground when Izumi suddenly had a coughing fit and dropped Bakugo. Blood splattered the pavement, but Izumi quickly recovered. "Nothing happened, let's resume," she grinned as if nothing had occurred. The audience stared in horror, but Aizawa and Kayama were already used to it. Bakugo flinched but continued fighting. Izumi and Bakugo clashed repeatedly, attacking and defending simultaneously, each trying to land a hit while blocking or dodging the other's blows. Tired of this endless back and forth, Bakugo grabbed both of Izumi's wings and headbutt her. As she stumbled back, he launched a full-blown attack, covering the entire side of the arena in smoke. Ha! Bakugo panted. The smoke cleared, revealing Izumi standing there, her eyes red once again. "I really don't appreciate you attacking my sister like that," Izuku spoke through Izumi's mouth. The audience was shocked to see that while Izumi's body still had her angel wings, a demonic silhouette behind her shielded her with dark wings. "Even though I know this is a tournament and my sister won't suffer any long-lasting damage, I still dislike her being attacked like this. I would have intervened earlier if she hadn't been able to avoid all your attacks," Izuku said. Suddenly, Izumi's hand rose and slapped herself across the face. "Izuku, I didn't ask you to protect me," she said. Bakugo and Izumi locked eyes. "It's clear that this isn't going anywhere. You would have won if my brother hadn't intervened, so." Izumi looked toward Midnight. "I concede. Bakugo won fair and square." Midnight nodded. Cracking her whip, she announced the victor. "The winner is Katsuki Bakugo." The audience cheered as Izumi walked across the arena and offered Bakugo her hand. "Good fight, Katsuki-kun. We should do that again someday," she said. Bakugo stared and scoffed. Yeah, whatever." "Izumi-san," he muttered, a slight blush creeping onto his cheeks. He took her hand and shook it, but without warning, Izumi playfully grasped his wrist and raised his arm into the air. "Congratulations, Katsuki-kun," she said, smiling at him. The audience erupted into cheers, and Izumi felt a sense of satisfaction wash over her as she celebrated yet another successful relationship patch-up. The sports festival concluded with Bakugo in first place, Izumi in second, and Ida in third alongside Tokoyami. The following day, Aizawa announced the internship offers from the observing pro heroes. In the end, Izumi received the most offers, totaling over 1,000. "Well, she is Divinity after all," Mineta muttered from the back. Izumi scanned the names of the heroes who had offered internships, her eyes landing on one hero in particular, Gran Torino. Uncle Yagi mentioned that his mentor went by this hero name. Izumi thought. "Do you think we should train under him?" Izuku buzzed in her mind. "We probably should if we want to master one for all," Izumi replied. Aizawa then called the class's attention back to the front. "Before you can have internships with these heroes, there is something you must decide first," he said. "Your hero names." Midnight will also be here to assist you in choosing suitable and appropriate names. Choose wisely. Suddenly, the door swung open with a loud slam, revealing Midnight standing there. Or there will be consequences. Izumi sighed inwardly. Auntie Kiyama, why? Boards and markers were distributed to every student in the class. Izuku detached his soul from Izumi's body. Are you going to use divinity here? He asked. Izumi nodded. I'm going to use divinity for me and Hellbringer for you. Why must you associate me with the underworld? Izuku pouted. Because your quirk is literally hellish. Izumi whispered, then sighed. Look, if it makes you feel any better, we'll call ourselves Duality when we are both in control, okay? Izuku nodded excitedly. Izumi scrawled down, the Judgment Hero, Duality, then underneath wrote, the Restoring Hero, Divinity, and the Punishing Hero, Hellbringer. She stood up and walked to the front of the room with her brother. Since our quirks connect us, we'll be using different names depending on who is in control, Izumi explained, holding up her board. Izuku's body disappeared, and Izumi's eyes changed color. The Judgment Hero, Duality, they announced, then allowed Izumi to take control. The Restoring Hero, Divinity, she declared. Then her body shifted into Izuku's. The Punishing Hero, Hellbringer, he announced. When they separated again, Midnight gave them a thumbs up. Approved. The rest of the session passed quickly. Bakugo kept suggesting morbid names like King Explosion Murder or Lord Explosion Murder. Izuku, frustrated, yelled at him, just call yourself something inspiring that has nothing to do with murder. This prompted Bakugo to settle on Explosion Murder God, Dynamite, a clear nod to All Might's hero name. Better, but maybe call yourself something less grim, Midnight suggested. Bakugo made one last attempt. Explosion Destruction God, Dynamite. That's good. Approved. Izumi sighed. Took you long enough to think of a suitable name for yourself, Katsuki. Bakugo sneered. At least it isn't as cringeworthy as yours, Izumi. Izuku developed a tick in his left eye and took control of Izumi's body. Would you like some judgment? He growled, only to be promptly pushed out by Izumi. Stop it. What did I say about taking control of my body without my permission? The day ended quickly. At home, Izumi spoke with Aizawa and Kiyama. Gran Torino? He was All Might's mentor. You want to train under him? Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Yeah, if Gran Torino mentored Cousin Yagi, he would know how to control one for all better. He might even help me manage Izuku's quirk since he's never really used it before, Izumi explained. Izuku formed his body once more. I have used my quirk before, Izumi, he told his sister discreetly. You don't have that much experience with it, though, do you? Izumi shot back, effectively silencing him. Don't bicker, you two, Kiyama said, walking down from the stairway. It's not really my fault that my brother is clueless, Izumi said. Izuku placed a hand over his heart in mock hurt. Oh no! I have been betrayed by my only sister. Whatever shall I do? Aizawa snorted at his antics. Yep. Your brother is definitely less clever than you are. Hey! Izumi laughed. It's fine, you know we're joking. You're my brother, how could I not be joking? Izuku huffed, fine. Izumi circled Gran Torino on her internship list. The next day, Izumi went to submit her choice to the principal. Izumi Kawaii. She smiled as she turned to see Uraraka. Ochako-chan. Good morning. Have you decided who you're interning with? Uraraka asked. Of course, Izumi replied, showing her choice. Gran Torino? Uraraka asked, puzzled. Who's that? Izumi sighed. Cousin Yagi's old mentor. He saw the sports festival and offered me an internship. Cousin Yagi says he's extremely tough, which is why I want to train with him. Not to mention he can probably help me control one for all better, Izumi added in her mind. Wow, you're really dedicated. Uraraka exclaimed. Who are you interning with? Izumi asked, peering at her paper. I'm interning with martial arts hero, Gunhead, she said. My quirk isn't focused on offense, so I'm planning to take martial arts lessons with Gunhead to hold my own in a fight. Izumi nodded. Wise decision, Ochako-chan. Good luck. Let's both get stronger so we can compete next time we meet. She held out her fist. Ochako grinned and bumped it. Absolutely. By the end of the week, everyone had chosen their internships. Just before boarding their trains, Izumi confronted Ida. Don't do anything reckless, Tenyu-kun? If you need help, I'm just a phone call away. Ida nodded. Of course, thank you, Midoriya-san. We're friends, aren't we? Izumi asked. Ida was taken aback. Of course we are. Then don't burden yourself. And also, call me by my first name, okay, Tenyu-kun? Ida relented. Of course, Izumi-san. Izumi smiled, satisfied, and waved goodbye to him as she boarded her train. When Izumi and Izuku arrived at the location where Gran Torino was supposed to be, they found a large mansion-like building. It appeared worn down, with cracked bricks that looked like they could crumble at any moment. Izuku walked up to the door and opened it. Hello? My name is Izuku Midoriya, and we're here to. He stopped short. There was a body face down over a pool of red liquid. Izuku screamed, He's dead. Izumi sighed and lightly slapped Izuku. He's alive, don't worry. Right on cue, the old man raised his head. I'm alive. He's alive. Izumi face-bombed. Izuku, please stop being such an idiot. Shouldn't you be glad he's alive? Not scared? Izumi groaned. He literally fell over in a pool of blood. How else am I meant to perceive it? She sighed. Your quirk allows you to detect living beings. How did you not know he was alive? He wasn't hurt or dead, because I would have felt it. You should have known he was still alive. Izuku's face turned red as he looked away from Izumi and Gran Torino. Izumi sighed and walked over to the old man. Good morning. My name is Izumi Midoriya, and this is Izuku Midoriya. She extended her hand to the old man. What? The old man turned an ear towards her. Izumi paused, then sighed. I'm Divinity, and this is Hellbringer. Together, we form duality. We're here for our internships. He nodded, satisfied with that answer. Come in, come in. He beckoned the two to enter the building. Sis, are you sure this is safe? I mean, look at the condition of the building. Izuku asked his sister in a hushed tone. It'll be okay, Izuku, trust me. Izumi whispered back. All right, we'll be taking a general assessment so I know where you're at in terms of control with your quirks. Gran Torino said, turning around, his demeanor shifting from carefree to serious. Get changed into your hero costumes, and let's begin. Izumi and Izuku went to separate corners of the building to get changed. When they were ready, Gran Torino sized them up. Izumi's costume had been improved. Now, instead of looking like an angel, she resembled a goddess, with headgear that looked like a halo and a visor shielding her eyes. She still had the robes, utility belt, and extendable rod. Izuku's costume, hastily made by the support department, consisted of black and red robes, contrasting with Izumi's white and yellow attire, black battle boots, a sword attached to his lower back, and a utility belt storing syringes filled with sedatives. Gran Torino hummed in anticipation. Now both of you, come at me with all you have. Izumi and Izuku exchanged determined glances and nodded. Izumi struck first, drawing her rod and launching a blow at Gran Torino. She fully expected him to dodge, but she did not anticipate him flying around the room. Gran Torino zipped around, jumping off walls and the ceiling. As he rushed towards Izumi, Izuku slashed at him with his sword. Once again, Gran Torino evaded the strike. Impressive, you're able to keep up with my speed and predict when I'm going to land a blow, Gran Torino commented. Izuku remained silent. Gran Torino darted around the room again. Izumi and Izuku positioned themselves back to back, watching for Gran Torino's next move. The old man attacked from the side, taking advantage of their blind spots to ambush them. However, both expected this and swung their respective weapons at him. That quirk is so annoying to deal with, Izumi muttered. Izuku nodded. You said it. Izuku channeled his quirk into his hand, preparing for an attack. Izumi then wrapped one of her wings around Gran Torino, securing him. Izuku placed his hand over Gran Torino's face and released a blast. It was powerful enough to incapacitate someone, but Izumi ensured that Gran Torino remained unharmed by continuously healing him. Shishkit, that was really dangerous, you know. The old man exclaimed from his confinement in Izumi's wing. What am I going to do with you? Tashinori, why did you have to choose two linked people as your successors? One was enough, he groaned. Izumi perked up at the mention of All Might's name. So you know about One for All? Gran Torino huffed. I was his mentor, of course I know about it. He then walked in front of Izuku. You need to work on restraint. You cannot just discharge your quirk like that. He scolded Izuku. Izumi sighed. He's right, you know. If I didn't heal him, he'd be in serious trouble. Gran Torino then turned towards both of them. Neither of you used One for All. Care to tell me why? Izumi sighed. My brother hasn't used it before. Whenever he tries, he ends up injuring himself. Izuku yelped in protest, turning towards his sister. Please don't say it like that. It sounds so embarrassing. To be fair, you were out of commission for like 10, 11 years, so it is understandable. Either way, we came to you to train under you specifically for that reason, Izumi explained. Can you teach him? Gran Torino stared for a moment. Then his demeanor shifted back to that of a quirky old man. Izumi couldn't tell whether he was acting or not. Sure. Now can you heat up some taiyaki? The microwave is right. Gran Torino turned towards the broken microwave, which had been damaged during the assessment. Gah! Who broke my microwave? It was you too, wasn't it? Gran Torino pointed at the Midoriya siblings accusingly, both of whom could only stare as Gran Torino yelled at them. Hey! Is this really the guy who's going to teach me how to HRSS One for All? Izuku asked his sister nervously. Izumi was just as uncertain. Apparently so, she murmured. Their attention was drawn back to Gran Torino when he yelled at them to take some money, run to the store, and buy another microwave. The siblings looked at each other and sighed. What are you sighing about? Go! Izumi and Izuku grabbed the money and were about to leave when the old man suddenly grasped Izumi's arm. You stay here, he commanded, his demeanor shifting to that of a seasoned veteran before quickly returning to his usual self, urging Izuku to hurry. Izuku had no choice but to comply. Izumi and Izuku had been training for almost a week, focusing primarily on Izuku's mastery of One for All and his own quirk. Gran Torino marveled at what seemed like a miracle to him. Two wielders of One for All in the same generation. When All Might discovered that Izuku shared a body with Izumi, he too wondered if Izuku had inherited One for All, and Gran Torino provided the answer. Now, Gran Torino was observing the results of their training as they headed to Hosu. However, on the train, Izumi immediately sensed pain and suffering nearby. Izuku seemed to perk up as well, feeling the energies of others fading. Without hesitation, Izumi absorbed Izuku back into her body and leaped from the moving train, ignoring Gran Torino's warnings to stay put. As she landed, another Nomu attacked her. Another one of these? How many monsters do they have? Izumi muttered, harnessing Izuku's power to sap the Nomu's energy until it collapsed. Upon arriving in the city, she was met with scenes of destruction and chaos, with buildings ablaze and countless people in distress. I'll protect the citizens, you go heal them. Izuku called, splitting off from her. Izumi nodded, trusting him to safeguard the innocent with his life. She rushed toward the other heroes, offering her assistance and healing their wounds. As she ran toward the civilians, she coughed, feeling her strength waning. I'm running out of time, she whispered. Reaching the wounded citizens, she urged them, you'll be fine. Please evacuate the area as soon as possible. In an instant, the heroes battling three Nomu were thrown back. Without a second thought, Izumi dashed toward them, her life depending on it. Manuel, where's Tenya? She asked the normal hero. I don't know. One moment he was here, the next he was gone, he shouted in panic. With most of the pro heroes injured, Izumi wasted no time. She channeled her quirk to her fingertips, healing the heroes at a rapid pace, but it drained her energy. She quickly opened her utility belt and grabbed a granola bar, unwrapping it and eating it as she searched for Ida. She sped through the streets, checking alleyways. Darn it, Izumi thought, if he's gone and done something reckless. Just then she spotted Ida and another pro-hero down and injured in front of Hero Killer, Stain, she murmured. Analyzing the situation, Izumi realized that if she charged in to heal Ida and Native, she might get hurt by Stain's blades. But if she hesitated, they would surely perish. With determination, she decided to rush in, letting one for all surge through her veins, glowing with a golden light. She knocked Stain aside and used her quirk to help Ida and Native recover quickly. Another hero? You shouldn't have come here, Stain rasped. Maybe not, but if I didn't, these two would be dead, Izumi retorted. I'm not letting anyone take an innocent life needlessly. This isn't needless. They are fake heroes, Stain growled, his voice menacing. We'll see about that, Izumi replied, drawing her extendable rod. Stain clicked his tongue in annoyance. Your funeral. He charged at her with incredible speed. But Izumi was no ordinary human. Her eyes followed his movements, and as he got close, she raised her staff to deflect his blades away from her face. Tenya, get up and get Native away from here. I'll hold him off. Izumi shouted over her shoulder. I can't. His quirk can paralyze you, he grunted. Now it was Izumi's turn to feel frustrated. She charged at Stain, brandishing her staff. Stain dodged around her and aimed for Ida. Izumi leaped in front of him, slamming her wing into Stain and sending him crashing into the wall beside Native. She quickly shielded Native with her wings just as Stain attempted to strike him. Hey, you're good, kid. But not good enough, Stain smirked. Izumi checked herself for injuries, relieved to find none. But then Stain appeared right in front of her. Izumi gasped. There was no way her wings could cover her that quickly. The only way to avoid his attack was to Izuku! Izumi yelled, absorbing him back into her body and letting him unleash a blast that sent Stain flying backward. Izuku looked through one of Izumi's eyes. I really don't appreciate you trying to harm my sister, buddy. I'm legally dead, so I can take you out without consequences, but I don't want to get anyone in trouble, so I'll just drain your energy until you're nothing but a shadow of your former self, Izuku said, grinning through Izumi's face. Izuku, no, Izumi muttered. Izuku, yes, he laughed, lunging at Stain and siphoning his energy. Izumi sighed. If you don't stop, you're going to hurt him, and then I'll have to deal with you for that. Izuku paused, then sighed. Fine. I won't eliminate him. Izumi snorted at his choice of words. Eliminate? This isn't a video game, you can't just erase things, Izuku. Ignoring her, Izuku said, Let's take him down, sis. Izumi separated from him. Let's do this, Hellbringer. Izuku stared at her for a moment, then laughed. As you wish, Divinity. They charged at Stain together. This is for all the innocent heroes you've hurt. Izumi shouted. Time for some judgment and punishment. Izuku added. Not with my mom watching, no. Also, when you say you're sick. No, I do not have COVID. As Izumi and Izuku fought Stain, he began lecturing them about his ideology. Fake heroes? Izumi asked. Judging from your definition of a fake hero and your goal to eliminate all fake heroes, you have a long way to go until a true culling of fake heroes. But we're not going to let you do that. No matter their motivation, if they willingly take on that challenge and risk their lives every day keeping people safe, then they are heroes in my eyes. With those words, Izumi swung her staff at Stain, but he dodged and attempted to strike Izuku with his blades. Izuku blocked the attack with his own weapon and retaliated with a punch to Stain's face. Stain grunted in annoyance, glaring at the twins. He observed as they each channeled one for all through their bodies, Izumi glowing with a divine golden light while Izuku crackled with red and black sparks of energy. One strike after another, one counterattack after another, Stain was going full throttle against the twins. His movements were almost impossible to track with the naked eye, but to his surprise, the duo known as Duality managed to keep up. Frustrated with the endless battle, Stain knew he had to leave quickly before the pro-heroes arrived, but he couldn't do so while the twins were still standing. With a maniacal grin, he transformed the distance between them into a flurry of blades. At this point, Stain was moving faster than even Izumi or Izuku could follow. They had to rely on their hearing to locate him, as it took too long to look around. Using sight and sound together, Duality unleashed a flurry of their own, this time in the form of wings. The impact sent Stain crashing into a wall, and he was growing tired of being slammed around. He stood up but didn't attack. Instead, he liked his blade, and suddenly, Izumi found herself unable to move. In the chaos of blades and wings, only one drop of blood was spilled, and it belonged to Izumi. Maniacal laughter echoed through the alley, and Izuku looked up to find Stain directly in front of him. Izuku had no time to react. He couldn't retreat into Izumi's body in time. But before Stain could strike, a column of fire erupted from the other end of the alley, forcing Stain to leap aside and sparing Izuku from harm. Expecting to see Endeavor, Izuku was surprised to find a familiar boy with red and white hair. "Todoroki-kun," Izuku exclaimed as he dodged another of Stain's blows. "I got your message. You need to be more specific and send me the situation, not just your location," Todoroki said, seemingly addressing Izumi, as Izuku did not recall sending him a message. Izumi grinned. "I was wondering when you'd show up." A low growl interrupted them. "You brats just keep on coming, don't you?" A shadow loomed before Todoroki. Without warning, a throwing knife grazed Todoroki's cheek, but when Stain moved in closer, Izumi shouted a warning. "Don't let him lick your blood. He'll paralyze you." Todoroki immediately raised his guard and ignited his left side in flames, forcing Stain to back away, where an ambush awaited him. A spurt of blood shot across the alley, staining the walls and pavement. Izuku had attempted to ambush Stain but instead found a sword move into his gut. He immediately lost consciousness and retreated into Izumi's mind. Izumi's vision turned red. If Stain had said something, she didn't hear it. Stain's insane laughter was interrupted as Izumi slammed a fist into his gut. Surprised that she had broken free from paralysis, Stain quickly backed away. The hero killer's bloodshot eyes met the rage-filled gaze of a guardian angel. The alley fell silent except for the crackling of fire and ice. Then all chaos broke loose. A battered body was flung around the alley, a trail of golden light following it. Through the fire and flames, Stain was finally defeated. But it was not by a vengeful guardian angel. It was at the hands, or rather, legs, of the pro-hero in training known as Ingenium. Izumi was furious that Stain would resort to harming kids to escape. Though Izumi was not seriously injured, Izuku was a different story. Stain was restrained and escorted out of the alleyway by Endeavor, Manuel, and Gran Torino. Izuku was summoned back into the real world so Izumi could heal him. But before Izuku fully recovered, Izumi was snatched away by a winged Nomu. She was in pain and couldn't concentrate like before. She couldn't fight back. Endeavor impaled the Nomu's head with a flaming spear, but it still didn't go down, perhaps due to the distance between him and the creature. Blood splattered onto the pavement below, belonging to both Izumi and the Nomu. The two figures fell to the ground with a third standing over them. Hero killer, Stain had come to. A dark, menacing aura enveloped the area. Izumi's classmates flinched at this energy, which felt even scarier than Izuku's. Stain's raspy voice echoed, loud but slow. "This entire world is corrupt. Fake heroes everywhere. I will not allow myself to be defeated like this." He yelled, "Remember me, Stain, the hero killer, for I will bring the culling of heroes to root out the fakes." He glared at the heroes. "The only time I will let a pro-hero kill me is when I fall at the hands of the true hero. All might." He then pointed his sword at Izumi, and this brat, along with. He pointed at Izuku, that brat. These are the only true heroes in this corrupt world we call a society. They will be better than you ever will be. But unknowingly, that would be the last word he uttered as a free man. In the end, all it took was a punctured lung to end his reign of terror. Izumi healed everyone's wounds, her mind still. Reeling from what Stain had said. A true hero? She couldn't believe it. How could she? Those words had come from a hero killer. Despite understanding his ideals, she found it hard to accept his declaration. Like his sister, Izuku also struggled to believe Stain. As Izumi tended to Stain's injuries, Izuku drained his strength, ensuring he remained unconscious. The pro-heroes escorted the heroes in training out of Hosu, placing them in police custody for using their quirks without permission, even against a villain. I don't really get it. If we help take down a villain, why are we still in police custody? Izuku complained, glancing to his right at the familiar greenette beside him. Yes, we took down a villain, but we did it illegally. That's why we're here. If everyone could just take the law into their own hands, the world would be in chaos. That's why using quirks in public without a license is forbidden, Izumi explained, her tone reminiscent of a parent teaching a child about the consequences of stealing. Izuku huffed, that's unfair. We took out a villain for them, and they still take us into custody. We essentially acted as vigilantes, Izuku. We're not authorized to fight villains until we have our provisional hero licenses, she reminded him, her voice steady. Ida and Todoroki listened quietly to the twins' exchange. Then a police officer resembling a dog approached them. Greetings, young heroes. My name is Keiji Tsuragami, the chief officer of the police force. I personally appreciate your help in capturing the hero killer. However, I must enforce the law regarding your use of quirks without a license. The officer continued, I offer you two choices. Stain sustained severe injuries, but there are burn marks on him that could be attributed to Endeavor's quirk. Would you prefer the truth to be published, resulting in your mentor's licenses being suspended, or would you rather let Endeavor take the credit? Izumi frowned at the question. But why manipulate the information? We broke the law, so we should face the consequences. Izuku interjected, as much as I like the idea of our achievements being recognized, I think we should let Endeavor take the credit. A soft but frustrated sigh escaped Izumi. But isn't manipulating information also illegal? It isn't right. We broke the law, and we should be punished accordingly. Todoroki chimed in, except we aren't the ones who will be punished. Our mentors are. I wouldn't mind if my father's license was suspended, but I'm not so sure about the other pro-heroes. Izumi weighed her options. Should they hide their crime or let someone else take the fall? The officer noticed her contemplation and chuckled slightly. I can see why Stain called you a true hero. Izumi was lost in thought. If we cover up our crime to protect our mentors, we'll have to live with the knowledge of our wrongdoing, and that would be another crime. But if we publish the truth, our mentors will face the consequences, not us. The best course of action seems to be manipulating the information, but that itself is a crime. As law-abiding citizens, we should let the truth be known and accept the punishment, but it feels wrong to let our mentors suffer for our actions. However, if we let Endeavor take the credit, we would just be covering up one crime with another. After a long moment of muttering, Izuku interrupted her thoughts again. Just let Endeavor take the credit. Think of it as the police turning a blind eye to us. But Izumi started to protest, only to be cut off by Ida. If I may interject, I believe neither choice is ideal, but letting Endeavor take the credit for defeating Stain seems to be the most favorable solution. It's better than allowing our mentors to face the consequences. Izumi sighed in defeat. Outnumbered and with two people advocating for letting Endeavor take the credit, she had little choice but to concede to her brother and best friend. All right, I'll let Endeavor take credit for defeating Stain, but that doesn't mean I have to like it, she said reluctantly. She didn't like the situation at all, but what could she do when her opinion was in the minority? So, she begrudgingly accepted the officer's offer, despite her discontent. While she was relieved that her mentors wouldn't face punishment, she still felt uneasy about manipulating the truth. Eventually, the heroes in training were released from the station and allowed to return to their internships. It wasn't long before the internships concluded, and they had to return to UA for further training. Little did they know, the final exams were just around the corner. It consisted of a practical and written exam, and was considered the most challenging test to pass in the first year. Aizawa had warned the students that failing the final exams would mean missing out on the summer camp. That should provide plenty of motivation for them. Izumi was currently debating with her brother in the cafeteria. I keep telling you, the best way to use your quirk isn't for harm. It's to detect anyone in pain. Izumi said, her frustration evident. One for all is enough to make up for combat ability. And yet, by using my quirk, I can immobilize villains and fight longer by draining their stamina. Izuku countered. Isn't that a win-win situation? If your quirk goes out of control, you'll draw everyone's stamina into yourself. It does more harm than good. Izumi insisted. It's better to prevent those risks. The same goes for you. If your quirk spirals out of control, you'll absorb everyone's pain, which could be fatal. Izuku shot back. Suddenly, something knocked into the back of Izuku's head. He turned to see Monoma. Oh, I'm sorry. Your head was so ridiculously big that it was hard to miss. Monoma gloated. You think Class 1A is all high and mighty, huh? Well, newsflash, you're just bait for villains. I heard Class 1A was attacked at the USJ. What kind of trouble are you going to bring us? Izumi had enough and swiftly tapped Monoma's throat with her extendable staff before retracting it and pocketing it. Newsflash for you, Monoma. Class 1A has faced life-or-death situations where one wrong move could have cost us everything. Class 1B hasn't. You don't know what a real fight is like. Izumi stood up and pulled Izuku along with her as they left. After the written exam, Izumi was paired with Bakugo against All Might. Don't get in my way, Bakugo smirked. Wouldn't dream of it, Izumi replied, drawing her extendable staff. They navigated the city streets, debating their strategy for when they inevitably encountered All Might. Katsuki, there's no way we can beat All Might even with a handicap. We need to ensure at least one of us escapes, Izumi said, exasperated. If he were a real villain, we'd be done for in seconds. We need to run and hide, hoping he doesn't find us, because if he does, we're both in trouble. You're a healer, can't you just patch me up during the fight? He scoffed, cracking his knuckles. We need to make sure he doesn't cause more destruction. Izumi sighed. For me to heal you, we both need to be moving at the same speed and direction, or standing still. All Might won't give us that chance. I can only heal you if he's distracted. Then an idea struck her. A maniacal grin spread across her face, startling everyone watching on the monitors, including Bakugo. Izuku, come out, it's time to play, Izumi sang, her tone both innocent and unsettling. Izuku appeared, looking a bit uneasy. That voice was creepy. What do you need? Wait in a nearby building. If Katsuki gets hurt, jump in and distract All Might while I heal him, Izumi explained. I'd have you both fight at the same time, but I can't risk both of you getting hurt. I can sap his strength, Izuku suggested. Wouldn't that help? Like he'd give you enough time to do that. You'd have to be close, and he won't just stand there while you're right there, Bakugo snorted. A soft yet annoyed growl was heard, causing both Bakugo and Izumi to laugh. Izuku trudged off into a nearby building. Of course, I'm the one on standby. Sorry, buddy, just business. Izumi chuckled, but their laughter was cut short as All Might arrived, smashing through the city. Izumi and Bakugo locked eyes, nodding in unison before splitting up. Bakugo charged head-on at All Might while Izumi took to the skies. All Might primarily focused on Izumi, recognizing her as a healer who could keep the fighters in the fight. Unfortunately for him, Bakugo was a formidable opponent, and Izumi held her own as well. Together, they kept All Might occupied, allowing Izuku to access one of the HNDCFFs. Bakugo dove in, palm outstretched, ready to strike All Might again when Izuku suddenly appeared between them, slapping one end of the HNDFFs onto All Might's right wrist. Izuku pressed his palm against All Might's chest, forcefully draining his strength while maneuvering the other end of the HNDCFFs toward his left wrist. Noticing what Izuku was doing, Izumi decided to help push All Might's left wrist toward his right. However, Bakugo wasn't on board with the plan and unleashed a massive explosion at All Might from point-blank range, inadvertently causing Izuku some pain. Izumi quickly laid a hand on Izuku's back, healing the burn while scolding Bakugo. You can be so reckless sometimes. Why would you attack an enemy through an ally? I swear, Sometimes I wonder why I haven't knocked you out yet. Taking a deep breath, Izumi harnessed the excess pain energy from Izuku, boosting her own strength and delivering a powerful punch to all might, combining the effects of all for one with her quirk's side effects. It stunned him momentarily, and that brief moment was all the heroes in training needed to secure their victory. In the end, 5 people ended up failing the final exams. Please give us a detailed recount of the experience. Ashido sobbed. Izumi sighed. You're not going to be left behind, trust me. Knowing Aizawa, it was probably another logical ruse. Ida shot up from his seat. That would be very irresponsible of him. How does he expect to earn our trust by repeatedly lying to us? Izumi chuckled. Tenyukuen, Aizawa-sensei is an underground hero, not just a teacher. I heard he once expelled an entire class because they didn't meet his expectations. You can't really expect him to give you a straightforward challenge without some sort of last-minute twist. Ida paused. I suppose you have a point, Izumi-san, but still, as a prestigious school, UA should not allow their teachers to teach in such a dishonest way. Izumi shrugged. It works, doesn't it? It brings out the best in all of us. Ida fell silent again, begrudgingly returning to his seat after admitting that Izumi had made another good point. Soon after, Aizawa appeared in the doorway, and everyone scrambled to take a seat. Alright, so 5 of you failed the final exams. Aizawa began, eyeing the 5 students in question. Now, I've said before that those who fail will not be going to the summer training camp, however. Izumi sighed. They're actually going because they need the training more than the rest of us, right? Aizawa gave them his signature grin. Absolutely right. You 5 need this training more than anyone else. That said, you will also be given supplementary classes to support your training. Kaminari, Ashido, Siro, Kirishima, and Sato all stared wide-eyed in shock, partly because Izumi had predicted the outcome and partly because they were actually able to go to summer camp. Now, we'll be leaving in a week. Get your bags packed and buy whatever else you need. That's how Izumi found herself at the shopping mall with several of her classmates. So, that happened, Izumi commented as she watched everyone else rush off to buy what they needed. Yeah. So, what did you need? Uraraka asked. Izumi checked the list she had made for herself. I need some sunblock and insect repellent, and a few extra sets of clothes. Cool. Want to get them together? I need bug spray too. Izumi smiled. Sure, let's go. Izumi and Uraraka spent the entire day buying their needed supplies, but as they walked past a hooded figure in an empty part of the mall, Izumi sensed danger and malice emanating from him. He didn't seem to be making any moves, but Izumi felt she should keep an eye on him. You go on ahead, Ochako-chan. I need to do something quickly. Okay, I'll see you later then. Izumi smiled at her before turning her attention to the hooded figure. Shigaraki. I'm so glad you recognized me, dear angel, the hooded figure cackled. Why are you here? Izumi asked, not in the mood for small talk with a villain. You know I can easily apprehend you, right? That's what makes this encounter so fun. Similarly, you realize I can easily eliminate you, right? Even if you did, I would be fine with it. I don't have long to live anyway. If you disintegrated me, I would make sure I take you down with me, Izumi said, a hint of defiance in her voice. How quaint. You want to play the hero, Midoriya? Shigaraki flashed Izumi a psychotic grin. Then die like one at your little summer camp. And with that he left, walking into a portal that took him who knows where. But those words left a deep mark in Izumi's mind, echoing for hours afterward. She went to see Aizawa about it. Izumi was recounting her story to Aizawa back home. So you encountered Shigaraki? Aizawa asked. Izumi nodded. He didn't make any threatening moves. He told me that he could easily kill me, as easily as I could apprehend him. Then, when I told him that I would take him down with me, he said, and I quote, "You want to be a hero, Midoriya? Then die like one at your little summer camp." Aizawa, although shocked, didn't visibly show it. So you're saying that you think he knows the location of the summer camp? Not just the location, but also when we would be going. He seemed very confident that he knew I'd be there, and he didn't look like he was bluffing either. He has a trick up his sleeve, and whatever it is, it's not good for us. We need to be on our guard, Izumi said. Aizawa's brow creased. If the League of Villains attacked us at the summer camp, we would be compromised. Even if we manage to get our signal for help out, it will take the nearest pro-heroes hours to get there. Izumi nodded. So if we were to be attacked, we would have to rely on ourselves to survive, right? Aizawa sighed. As much as I hate to admit it, yes, we may have to fight back against the villains. But what would be the purpose of attacking the camp? Izumi asked. Surely there has to be some kind of goal they would achieve by attacking? Aizawa shook his head. I don't know, but if we find out, depending on the situation, we may have to return early. Izumi shook her head. We won't have the opportunity to. Knowing the League, they're most likely going to launch a well-thought-out attack, cutting off our escape routes and communications. The safest bet would be to cancel the camp itself. Aizawa sighed. I get where you're coming from, but we can't. The camp is important for the development of all of our students. We can't just cancel it just because it suits our fancy. Not even to avoid a villain attack and potentially having the students injured? Izumi raised an eyebrow. We don't even know for sure if they are actually going to attack. Shigaraki may have only been saying that to deter our programs, Aizawa said. For now, we just need to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It was time for summer camp. What's this? I hear that some of the Class 1A students are doing supplementary classes. Does that mean some of you actually failed the finals? Monoma gloated. Oh, how embarrassing. You must all be wallowing in shame. Izumi, fed up with his attitude, firmly pressed her retractable rod against his throat, causing him to choke slightly. I don't know why you hate Class 1A so much, nor do I particularly care, but I'm done with it. I've made it clear that there's a difference in experience between Class 1A and Class 1B. Don't make me say it again. Be that as it may, you all. Monoma couldn't finish as Kendo stepped in, giving him a light shove. Sorry about him. Class 1A watched in silence as Kendo pulled Monoma onto the bus. The bus ride was loud and chaotic, prompting Izumi to retreat into her thoughts for a while, blocking out the noise for about 2 hours. When the bus finally stopped, everyone disembarked, only to find themselves at the edge of a cliff. Izuku appeared beside Izumi, looking worried. Please don't let this be what I think it is. Izumi sighed, knowing our luck, it probably is. As everyone stretched their legs, Aizawa introduced them to 2 members of the Wild Pussycats. Pixie Bob peered over the cliff and said, The camp is that way. If you hurry, you should be able to reach it in 3 hours. Izumi groaned inwardly. It was exactly what Izuku had feared. Mandalay and Pixie Bob exchanged mischievous glances as the ground beneath them shifted, sending the students tumbling off the cliff. Izumi and Izuku soared through the air, catching as many students as they could and helping them land safely. Izuku grumbled in frustration, Of course, the one time I have a bad feeling, I don't act on it. Izumi sighed. Well, we're here now, but what do we do about those? She pointed to a few earthen creatures approaching them. Mineta, however, didn't pay attention and dashed into the forest. As the earthen creatures moved closer, Izumi had no choice but to draw her retractable staff. The twins maneuvered through the ranks of the earthen creatures, clearing a path for the others. Meanwhile, everyone else was using their quirks to help fend off the creatures. Izumi and Izuku worked in tandem, with Izuku siphoning energy from the earthen creatures and transferring it to Izumi, who then replenished the energy and stamina of their classmates. Izumi also utilized her wings as weapons, slicing through any earthen creature that got too close. By the time they reached the camp, the sun was setting. Well, you all did better than expected. Pixie Bob grinned, pointing at Izumi, Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Immediately, she fussed over them like a concerned guardian. All right, everyone will have to cook for yourselves. Get started, or would you rather go hungry? Mandalay announced, prompting everyone to begin. Izumi noticed a young boy in the background. Who's the kid? Mandalay, who was near Izumi's group, walked over. That's Koda, my nephew or I guess first cousin, once removed. His parents were heroes who died in the line of duty, and he now stays with us, she explained. He was very young when it happened and didn't grasp how heroes worked. Now he believes that being a hero means leaving your family behind. Izumi looked at Koda with sympathy. That must be really tough. Mandalay nodded. Try to overlook his comments sometimes. And don't be surprised if he starts criticizing heroes. Izuku sighed. Sounds like he's a handful. Mandalay chuckled. He's quite cooperative actually, but yes, he can be a lot to handle. Izumi then stood up with a few bowls of food. Dinner's served. As everyone sat down to eat, Izumi noticed Koda sneaking away. She excused herself and followed him with a bowl of food. She found him gazing over the cliff edge and sat down beside him. I brought food. Want some? The boy jumped at the sound of her voice but eventually accepted the food. Your parents were killed by a villain too, huh? Izumi asked. The question caught Koda off guard. They killed yours too? Izumi nodded. That was about 10 or 11 years ago. Koda hugged his knees to his chest. I just don't understand why heroes have to be so reckless. Izumi placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm sure your parents wanted you to live, which is why they made the ultimate sacrifice. Koda pulled away. But at what cost? I survive, but they're gone. It would have been better for us to just run. Heroes are unreliable. They don't solve anything. Tears streamed down his face. Izumi activated her quirk, drawing some of his emotional pain away. Let me tell you a story, she said. After my mother died, I was taken in by pro-heroes, just like you. She opened her hand, and the energy from the absorbed pain glowed softly, illustrating her words. There is no real difference between heroes and civilians. Everyone just wants to live. I understand your feelings. Villains are often just unfortunate people who have faced terrible circumstances. But what can we do? Most heroes seek to stop villains for recognition or money, but a true hero is different. The image in her hand shifted to an illustration of All Might. A true hero fights villains until their last breath. They inspire others to be better. Most importantly, they do it without regard for their own lives, because the life of a single pro-hero is insignificant compared to the lives they save. A hero doesn't back down, even when they are at their weakest, because by standing up to villains, they ensure civilians can escape safely. Izumi explained. Your parents were true heroes, and I'm sure they never intended to leave you alone. Then the image in her hand transformed into a flickering flame. This fire represents the determination of pro-heroes to keep civilians safe. Your parents embraced that pledge and added to this flame. They kept civilians, including you, safe. She said, pressing her hand gently to Koda's chest. This fire, their legacy, now burns within you. If you want to hate heroes, that's your choice. But understand that a hero does more than what you think. Goodbye. Shadowflame 95, signing out. Photon Frost 95, signing out. Chapter end. It hadn't even been a day, and the intense training had already begun. It was 6 a.m., and Izumi and Izuku were already awake and training. After an hour of sparring against each other, they had breakfast, and then the wild pussycats started their training. Everyone was engaged in activities that corresponded to their quirks. Ida was sprinting at full speed, Tokoyami was battling Dark Shadow in a cave, Siro was continuously shooting out tape, and so on. As for Izumi and Izuku, they were sparring against Class 1B. More accurately, Izuku was sparring while Izumi provided support whenever he got hurt. Izumi was focusing on long-range healing while Izuku drained energy from the students in Class 1B. The students were not pleased with this arrangement. Tiger insisted they spar against Izumi and Izuku, or they would have to face him instead. Occasionally, some students would get close to Izumi, but Izuku would swiftly knock them away before returning his focus to the others. The teamwork between the twins was remarkable. Even when outnumbered 2-20, they managed to hold their ground. Izuku fought with reckless abandon, confident that his sister was there to support him. This dynamic not only increased Izumi's healing abilities but also unlocked a new skill. She could now transfer her stamina to others. While it was a significant sacrifice for her, the benefits were undeniable. The training was pushing Izumi to her limits. As she continued to push her quirk, she often found herself coughing and feeling unwell, but she brushed off anyone who suggested she take a break, insisting she was fine. Whenever she felt overwhelmed, Izumi would heal herself through her own pain, enduring double the discomfort while continuing to support Izuku. As days passed, Izumi developed the ability to heal others within a radius around her, replenishing their stamina. Meanwhile, Izuku learned to absorb stamina and share it with Izumi, allowing her to keep healing for extended periods. This powerful combination enabled Izumi to assist those in critical condition with ease. Day after day, they trained under the guidance of their mentors until one fateful day arrived. "So you're saying I'm going in alone?" Izumi asked Mandalay. "Well, you drew the short straw. Besides, you have your brother," Mandalay replied with a shrug. Izumi sighed. She was participating in a test of courage, where Class 1B would try to scare Class 1A using their quirks. Due to an odd number of participants, Izumi had to go solo. She didn't care much for the event, finding it somewhat pointless. The first group set off, and soon, screams echoed through the forest. One by one, the groups departed until it was Izumi's turn. Just before she could go, she noticed smoke and gas in the air. None of the Class 1B students had fire or gas quirks. Mandalay cursed under her breath, and before anyone could react, Pixie Bob was knocked out by a large pole. A towering woman and a smaller lizard-like man appeared. Mandalay quickly used her quirk to reach out to everyone. "Everyone, we are under attack by villains. Do not engage, return to base camp immediately." Tiger appeared, adopting a fighting stance upon noticing the villains. "Greetings. We are the League of Villains Assault Vanguard." Izumi gritted her teeth, discreetly healing Pixie Bob's head injury before remembering Koda. "Mandalay, I know where Koda is. I'll go get him." Mandalay nodded and turned to face the villains. Izumi rushed away, but the large woman moved to attack her. The lizard guy threw a knife to intercept her. "What the hell, Spinner?" the woman exclaimed. "That girl is regarded as a true hero by Stain. I will carry on his will. I don't care who's on the target list." Spinner retorted. Taking advantage of their argument, Tiger knocked them both out. Izumi flew as quickly as she could, landing in front of Koda and shielding him with her wings just as the muscular man landed a punch nearby. "Koda, get out of here." "I'll handle him," Izumi urged, but Koda was frozen in fear. Izumi sighed, releasing Izuku. "Izuku, take Koda back to base camp." "And leave you here alone?" he protested. "I'll be fine." "You better be. If you aren't, I'll be very upset." Izumi smirked and unfurled her wings, dodging a punch from the villain she now recognized as Muscular, the one responsible for Koda's tragic past. "You're on the target list. The boss wants you alive, but that doesn't mean I can't have some fun," Muscular taunted, inserting an artificial eye into his empty socket. He charged at Izumi, who blocked his attacks with her wings and countered with her retractable staff. Neither could break through the other's defenses. The battle continued until Izumi made a critical mistake. Muscular seized the opportunity, punching her into the mountainside and causing her to sustain an injury. Izumi quickly healed herself, coughing as she did so. Activating One for All at full power, she healed herself while ignoring the pain, fueled by adrenaline. She moved faster, starting to make progress against Muscular's defenses. They exchanged blows, one healing rapidly while the other remained nearly impervious to damage. Eventually, Izumi managed to overpower Muscular, landing a powerful blow to his face. 1,000,000% Detroit smash, she shouted, unleashing the attack and knocking Muscular out cold. To ensure he wouldn't wake up soon, Izumi struck one of his pressure points, guaranteeing he would stay down for a while. She then hurried back to base camp, ensuring her wounds were healed as she went. "Goodbye. Photon Frost 95, signing out. Shadow Flame 95, signing out." When Izumi arrived back at base camp, she noticed that many students were still missing. Gritting her teeth, she launched into the skies, using her quirk to sense those around her who were hurt or in distress. She dove toward a flash of pain she felt, entering a cloud of gas. Holding her breath, she flapped her wings vigorously, dispersing the gas around her so she could breathe. She found Kendo and Tetsu engaged in a struggle against a man in a gas mask wielding a gun. The masked figure aimed at Tetsu, knocking off his gas mask. Izumi decided to intervene. Beating her wings hard, she dashed behind the masked man, throwing a punch, but he noticed and fired at her. Fortunately, the bullet struck her wing and ricocheted into Tetsu. Quickly checking his condition, Izumi healed the crack in his metal forehead. Kendo then jumped out from behind her, throwing a punch at the masked man, forcing him to dodge. Her hand enlarged, striking him in the face. Izumi seized the opportunity to sweep his legs out from under him and knock him out with a quick jab. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind. "All students, in the name of Eraserhead, you are permitted to fight back against the villains. I repeat, you are permitted to fight back against the villains." It was Mandalay. The gas dissipated, leaving only Izumi, Tetsu, and Kendo. Izumi turned to check on them, and upon seeing they were fine, she wished them well and directed them back to base camp. She then took off to search for others. She found Awase and Yaoyorozu fleeing from a chainsaw Nomu. Izumi quickly healed their wounds and used her wings to block the Nomu's chainsaw. "Go! I'll cover your escape." Yaoyorozu regained her composure and created a small disc. "Stick this onto the Nomu if you're unable to defeat it." Izumi nodded and urged them to leave. "All right, you and me, ugly." She grinned, calling Izuku back to her body and releasing him once again. "Finally, I was waiting for a long time," he complained. "Shut up and help me with ugly over here." Izuku sighed. Old plan. Old plan." The twins charged at the chainsaw-wielding Nomu, Izuku slashing it across the face while Izumi struck it in the gut. Izuku's sword cut deep enough to expose the creature's brain, but it wasn't enough to finish it off. After about 10 minutes of a hit-and-run strategy devised by Izumi and Izuku, the Nomu turned and bounded back through the forest, but Izumi managed to stick the disc onto its back as it fled. Did they get what they wanted? Izumi wondered aloud. Her attention was drawn to an ice spire to her right. Todoroki. Izuku and Izumi rushed toward the ice spike and landed near a distressed Todoroki, Shoji, Uraraka, and Azui. "What happened? What's going on?" Izumi asked the panicking group. "They have Tokoyami and Bakugo." Uraraka screamed. Izumi cursed. "All right, Ochako-chan, erase our gravity. Tsu, throw us." They followed her instructions, launching Izumi, Izuku, Todoroki, and Shoji toward where the marble villain had disappeared. "Now!" Izumi yelled, signaling Uraraka to restore their gravity. They dropped down on top of the marble villain, knocking the marbles out of his hands. They landed right in front of a scarred man and another in a bodysuit who seemed to have multiple personalities. Shoji snatched up the marbles with his dupli arms, and the students pinned down the marble villain. Without warning, blue fire shot at them. Izumi reacted quickly, using her wings to shield everyone, but the heat of the fire was unexpected. It melted through her wings, and as she pushed everyone else out of the way, the stream of blue fire burned through her left shoulder, instantly cauterizing the wound. "Izumi!" Izuku screamed, grabbing his sister's remaining arm and pulling her away. Izumi coughed out more blood than before. "Leave me here, Izuku. I'll cover your escape. I'm not living past today either way." Izuku stared at her with a pained expression but ultimately decided to trust her. They prepared to run, but the marble villain laughed. "Oh dear, I'm sorry, but you have the wrong ones." He snapped his fingers, and the marbles turned into ice shards. "Ice," Izumi muttered, realizing what had happened. The marble villain took off his mask, revealing the marbles on his tongue, as he retreated into the swirling purple mist that was his escape path. Before he disappeared, Aoyama's naval laser burst through a bush, shattering the villain's mask and causing him to cough out the marbles. Shoji and Todoroki each went for one. Shoji snatched up his, but Todoroki missed by an inch. The scarred villain beat him to it. "Compress, release them." The villain now known as Compress snapped his fingers, revealing that Bakugo was in his grasp. Izumi gritted her teeth, lunging at Bakugo, grabbing him with her one arm and pulling him back, but in the process, she exposed herself to the scarred villain's flames. The blue flames shot out, and Izumi used what was left of her wings to shield Bakugo, knocking him out of the way while she took the brunt of the attack. Izumi heard screaming and saw, out of the corner of her eye, Izuku and Bakugo reaching out toward her falling body. She smiled even though her body was charred and burnt. Her smile was the brightest thing everyone had seen. Izumi beat her wings to knock the villains into the portal, which then closed. Now everyone had arrived at the spot where Izumi lay, gravely injured. Uraraka stumbled into the open field and spotted Izumi's burnt body. Most of her clothes had been burned away, her skin was black and covered in soot and dried blood. The only recognizable feature about her now was her hair. "Izumi-chan," she cried, rushing over to her friend's fallen form. Izumi chuckled softly. "You shouldn't see me like this, Ochako-chan." Uraraka collapsed next to Izumi's body, sobbing as Izumi's life force slowly faded away. Izumi turned her head to Bakugo. "Don't blame yourself for my death, Katsuki-kun. I would have preferred to die earlier to save you rather than later without being able to help," Izumi said weakly, raising her remaining arm to rest on Bakugo's cheek. For once, he was crying. Izumi reached into what was left of her shorts and pulled out a piece of paper that was relatively unburnt. She leaned up, wrapped her remaining wing around Uraraka, and kissed her gently. "I love you, Ochako." She handed her the piece of paper and smiled. Then her hand dropped, along with her wing, head, and body. The miracle hero known as Divinity was gone. For weeks afterward, the students of Class 1A mourned Izumi's death. Izuku took it the hardest, believing that since his sister, whose body hosted his soul, was now gone, he would disappear too. Yet he remained. As much as he appreciated being alive, he would have preferred to be with his sister rather than living on without her. The loss felt by Class 1A did not go unnoticed by the media and the rest of the school. Some outlets began to lose faith in heroes. UA has experienced the death of a student. Are heroes no longer able to protect civilians? One news channel reported. Others were more curious about the circumstances. The death of a UA student is concerning, but reports suggest she went out like a true hero. A few were supportive of UA. The loss of a student at UA is serious, but it reflects on our new generation of heroes. Divinity, as many know her, was killed while protecting her fellow students, embodying the true spirit of a hero. If this new generation is like her, our world is in safer hands. The teachers of UA publicly apologized for the danger the students faced, including the principal. However, with Divinity's death, there was a notable increase in vigilante activities. Divinity's death has sparked a rise in vigilantism. Is this the beginning of a new era? Aizawa turned off the television. Vigilantism, huh? Izuku sighed. My sister's death caused all that? A month had passed, and the media buzzed about Izumi's death. Class 1A had received their provisional licenses, except for Todoroki, who failed due to a conflict with another examinee, Inesa, who also did not pass. Aizawa pinched the bridge of his nose. I would complain about the rise in vigilante activity, but right now, it might be what we need. Izuku turned to Aizawa. By the way, what's the special mission for the Shai Hasaikai? Oh right. I haven't mentioned it, but you and I will be part of the Yakuza raid mission alongside Sir Night Eye, Fat Gum, Ryukyu, and other pro-heroes and sidekicks. Izuku nodded. When is it? The meeting is tomorrow. Izuku mentally face-bombed, realizing he was only informed a day before. All right, let me get my gear ready. The meeting was chaotic yet organized. Some pro-heroes were skeptical about Izuku and the other UA students being present. However, it all came together when Sir Night Eye devised a plan to raid the Shai Hasaikai, set to start the next day. Kids, there's a strong possibility the League of Villains is involved. We can't pull you out of the plan now, but if they show up, you're out, understood? Aizawa's piercing gaze met theirs. Izuku, Kirishima, Uraraka, and Azui all nodded. Good. Welcome aboard. On the day of the raid, the pro-heroes stood ready as the doors to the hideout burst open, revealing an army of gangsters. Did they know we were coming? Izuku, now known as Hellbringer, wondered aloud. Before anyone could respond, a large figure emerged from the floor, attacking the police officers dispatched to assist. One of the 8 bullets. I'll handle him, Ryukyu said, transforming into her dragon form and charging at him, with Uravity and Froppy following closely. Everyone in. Night Eye gestured to the doors. They rushed through the hallways and arrived at a secret passage that had already been cracked open. More Yakuza members attacked, but Bubble Girl held them off with Centipeder as the others ran down the passage, confused about who could have opened it. Suddenly, the walls began to shift. What's happening? Some police officers panicked, but Hellbringer remained calm. He quickly threw a knife at a shadow in the wall. Got him for now, keep moving. He urged everyone to continue. Unbeknownst to them, the knife only delayed the mimic for a moment. As they resumed their escape, the walls shifted again. Rocklock had enough and used his quirk to secure the floor. Keep moving. But I can't lock down the entire corridor. The heroes took every opportunity to advance, but soon they encountered a closed wall. Hellbringer drew his sword and carved a hole, allowing everyone to continue, but what they faced next was unexpected. The infamous vigilante, Yuri, who had gained popularity in just a month, was engaged in battle with Overhaul while protecting a small child behind her. The pro-heroes saw this, but before they could rush in to help, the walls shifted, separating them. Hellbringer cut through the nearest wall to reveal Rocklock standing over. Rocklock exclaimed, "An imposter came up behind me and attacked me with a knife." But Hellbringer was skeptical. He swiftly slashed at Rocklock's neck, while Eraserhead activated his quirk, revealing the true identity of Rocklock to be Himiko Toga. Hellbringer snarled. Toga giggled mischievously, raising a knife to block Hellbringer's sword. Eraserhead quickly wrapped her in his capture scarf, but she used the moment to swing over his head and launch an attack. She might have succeeded if Hellbringer hadn't cut into her wrist with his sword. She pouted, "You're no fun, you know that?" Then the ground opened up beneath her, swallowing her whole. The two heroes exchanged glances before moving toward the sounds of battle. Hellbringer carved through the wall, revealing Lemillion and Yuri fighting against Overhaul, both protecting a child behind them. Hellbringer and Eraserhead rushed in to assist. Overhaul proved difficult to defeat. Hellbringer realized that merely draining his energy wasn't enough. Overhaul could regenerate his own matter, effectively restoring his stamina. However, it was taking Overhaul longer each time to heal his wounds and rebuild his body. Suddenly, one of Overhaul's underlings, whose name Izuka hadn't bothered to learn, pointed a gun at Eri, who was huddled in a corner with Lemillion's cape. Just as he fired, Yuri appeared in front of Eri, blocking the bullet with a pair of glowing wings. Hellbringer stared at Yuri in disbelief as the wings dissipated, and she quickly knocked the gunman out. Lemillion continued to engage Overhaul, keeping him distracted while Hellbringer drained his energy. Eventually, Overhaul stumbled, giving Yuri the chance to charge in and strike him in the stomach, winding him. As more pro-heroes arrived, Overhaul turned his attention back to Eri, creating a rising pillar to lift her into the air and endangering several pro-heroes around them. Hellbringer unleashed his wings, soaring up to where Overhaul held Eri. With a powerful tug, he drained a significant portion of Overhaul's life force to fuel his own rage. With a series of quick strikes, Hellbringer managed to rescue Eri, activating One for All at full power, using the life force he had taken from Overhaul to regenerate his limbs after exerting himself. Overhaul's stamina quickly waned, and while Hellbringer succeeded in taking him down, it came at a cost. Sir Night Eye lay gravely injured, a large wound in his abdomen. Yuri, undeterred by the sight of blood, approached him and held her hand over the injury. Everyone watched in awe as the wound gradually began to heal. Yuri pocketed her device and was about to leave when Izuku, now back to being himself, grabbed her arm. "Wait," he said. Yuri tried to pull away, but his grip was firm. "What is it, hero?" she asked. Izuku looked at her for a moment before bowing his head. "Thank you for healing Sir Night Eye." "It's nothing. The loss of Divinity cost the heroes a great healer, so I'm trying to recreate her quirk with my devices," Yuri replied, brushing it off. You don't seem like a ghost to me, Izuku remarked. To which Uriai swiftly responded, I am to those who knew me in a past life. Eraserhead then appeared, narrowing his eyes at her. You should join UA Kid. How old are you? 15, I think, she answered. The heroes were taken aback. 15 and already this skilled? There was no way Uriai hadn't received prior training. She then removed her mask. I don't think I can rejoin UA, seeing as I'm technically dead. Izuku's mind raced. No. Impossible, he muttered. Possible, dear brother, Izumi said, turning around to reveal her scarred body. How? We saw you die. Izuku cried, tears streaming down his face. Izumi smiled gently. I did die. But my quirk sacrificed itself for me. I am now officially quirkless. That's why I'm trying to recreate my quirk using devices. Izuku reached out to touch Izumi's face, ensuring she was real, before pulling her into a tight embrace. The other students were also in tears, especially Uraraka. Izumi-chan. Uraraka called. Izumi looked at her lover. I'm back, Ochako-chan. Izuku released Izumi just in time for Uraraka to tackle her in an enthusiastic hug. Don't leave me ever again, you big JRK. She sobbed into Izumi's cloak. Izumi smiled softly. I'm sorry, Ochako-chan. But if I was going to die anyway, I was going to go out with a bang. Izuku wiped his tears and turned to his mentor. Aizawa, surely you'd want to say hi to your niece, right? At that moment, the usually stoic man broke down. Tears streamed down his face as Izumi embraced him. It's fine, uncle, I'm here. I'm here, she said, tears now flowing down her own cheeks. I'm glad you're alive, kid. Kiyama is going to be furious with you, you know that? Aizawa chuckled. Izumi laughed lightly. Of course. Years passed since that incident. Izumi reclaimed the name of Divinity, becoming the world's first quirkless hero. Izuku, now separated from his sister's body, would eventually become the symbol of justice. Mirio, still known as Lemillion, became the symbol of peace, the #1 hero, taking the place once held by All Might. As for the rest of the UA students, they all became great heroes. Even Mineta, surprisingly, changed his ways after Izumi's first death and became quite popular as grape juice. Though he still made jokes that sometimes made girls uncomfortable, he kept his distance. Those who had been part of the League of Villains reformed. The girl once known as Himiko Toga was revealed to be Himiko Monoma, Nito Monoma's older sister. The villain known as Dabi was actually Tuya Todoroki, who, after faking his death, became a villain to reform society. Others like Stain, after being released from prison, returned as the vigilante Stendhal. And so, the story continued. What ended up happening with One for All and All for One? All for One remained imprisoned for the rest of his extended life. However, Izuku made it a point to visit him multiple times as Hellbringer, taking a portion of his life force to help heal others. As for the current holder of All for One, there was none. Izuku returned the power to Izumi, but her body seemed unable to contain quirks any longer, and One for All became lost. Perhaps it was for the best, as the world was finally at peace. The symbols of peace, hope, and justice triumphed over criminal activities, and during that generation, crime was kept to a minimum.